Good morning and happy Friday, everybody. Welcome into the Mike Missanelli Show. No Mikey missed today. He's down at Augusta. But you got me, Bill Colarulo, and joining me today for the first time ever on the Mike Missanelli Show. You may have heard him doing early birds on Saturday mornings or appearing on the other shows as our bird insider, my main man, Andrew DeCecco. What's going on, AD?
Billy C., what's happening, man? Great to be with you.
I'm excited. We got a lot to talk about today. I think some people are going to be a little bit tired if you stayed up for that Phillies game last night. And if you did stay up for the Phillies game, I apologize. And I'm apologizing on behalf of Joe Ross, who comes in, sees two hitters, gives up a double and then a home run, a walk-off, and the Phils lose 4-2. There were some positives in the game. Mainly Jesus Luzardo looked lights out again. And then the rain delay, which was just brutal, waiting for that game to start. They restart at 11:30 last night. They probably should have had a day game, but they started 11:30 last night, restart the game. Some positives. Jordan Romano looked okay. Matt Strahm looked good, striking out two. Even Tanner Banks goes an inning without giving up a hit or any earned runs, but then Joe Ross comes in and loses the game. Alec Boehm, as I thought Rob Thompson maybe would do, gets moved down in the lineup. Didn't help him. Goes 0 for 5, and they put Nick Castellanos in the cleanup spot. He goes 0 for 5 and strikes out 5 times, Andrew.
I know.
5 times.
They're trying, man. They're trying to do something and shake things up, but it just didn't work. It's not working out, at least after one game.
They are trying. Brandon Marsh 0 for 2 again before Edmundo Sosa comes in and pinch hits. And a lot of the issues that we've seen with this Phillies team throughout this season, even though they're 8-4, reared their ugly head again last night, which was Alec Boehm struggles, what you're getting in left field from Brandon Marsh, and really what you're getting from the bullpen, even though some guys came in. Even Carlos Hernandez came in and pitched an inning striking out two. The guy throws some heat, but then Joe Ross gives it up late in the 11th inning. And I've heard a lot of criticism, even on the morning show this morning. I've seen it all over social media. There's been a lot of criticism of Dave Dombrowski, president of baseball operations. I think that's what his title is. Is he president of baseball operations, general manager, whatever he is? We're going to call him a GM for today. But I've seen a lot of criticism of him. And I was critical of him last year, Andrew. At the trade deadline, I didn't like what he did. I didn't think that the Austin Hayes move was great. The Carlos Estevez move, okay, wasn't really moving the needle. They never did anything to address the fifth starter last year. And now you come into this season, and people are seeing a lot of the same issues with this baseball team. And he's getting a lot of heat all over social media, so much so that I'm getting dressed this morning, and my wife's scrolling social, and she turns and she goes, aren't the Phillies good this year? I said, yeah, they got a good team. Well, it sounds like they're terrible. She's reading social media. So my question that I want to throw out to start the show, and this is going to be a show about general managers because we're going to get into Howie Roseman as well with the draft coming up. And you may have heard Andrew DeCecco before talk football. This guy knows football better than anybody. So we're going to definitely do some football talk. But we'll start with Dombrowski. Is the criticism fair? Like, are we so focused on his negative moves that we're not really looking at some of the positive things he's done, which Jesus Luzardo last night, unbelievable again. This is 3 quality starts from a guy. I mean, we thought maybe he was your 5th starter, quote unquote. He may be your best pitcher outside of Zach Wheeler. Not saying a lot when you got Sanchez and Nola and Ranger Suarez. So are we focused too much on the negative, or do you think the criticism of Dave Dombrowski is fair?
I don't think it's valid, Bill. I think it would be short-sighted to be overly critical of Dave Dombrowski right now. It's in a vacuum. I could see where a lot of the anger and the outrage is coming from. But when you look at the body of work, the track record that he's had, the level of success, I mean, it's kind of hard to go against it. And it's way too early. We talked about it being early into the season to make any predetermination as to what the roster is going to be, if player X is going to take that step forward. We don't know. It's still a brand new season, and we have to wait and see how it plays out. And I think when you take the body of work into account, you have to be really pleased with what he's done for the Phillies.
Yeah, you see, I'm torn on it. Like, I know Dombrowski, you look at his track record in his career, it's unbelievable the things he's done. He's taken 4 different teams to World Series. He's won 2 with 2 different franchises, which is unbelievable. But yeah, when he comes here, And I said this last year, and a lot of people were upset with me at the deadline when I said it. I said, well, look at what Dombrowski's done since he's been here. Like, has he really made any great moves? Like, he brings in Schwarber. He signed Trey Turner to that big, massive contract that Turner hasn't lived up to yet. I think we're seeing signs that maybe Turner can live up to it. He's having a good start to the season. And he extended Wheeler and he extended Nola. But a lot of the core pieces were already here when Dombrowski got here.
That's fair, yeah.
And he hasn't done anything that's put them over the top yet. So I understand the criticism, but I do think that maybe we're jumping to conclusions a little bit.
I think so, April 11th. But look, every year he has the Phillies in contention, and I think he's proven that he's willing to take risk. And I think when you look at every sport, Howie Roseman might be the most relevant example. He is risk-averse. And I think to excel in that role, you have to be. And he might strike out, Dave Dombrowski, sometimes, but he has the Phillies primed and ready every single season to be viable contenders.
Yeah, and they are a viable contender. And that's the thing is you look at this team, and they just finished their 4th series of the year, and they fall to the Braves last night, and they lose their first series. But they had won the first 3. They took 2 of 3 against the L.A. Dodgers, who are the powerhouse that spent all that money this offseason, even after winning the World Series. Oh, it's an interesting question because – I mean, you scroll Twitter, Andrew, and it's like...
You would think the sky's falling.
Oh, my God, you would. Like I said, my wife says to me this morning, are they a good baseball team? Because it just doesn't seem like they are when you listen to the fans. And listen...
To be clear, they're a very good baseball team.
But I'm guilty of it, too. Like, I don't want people to think that I'm coming after the fan base. I feel like even yesterday, coming off of a win, I'm very negative when it comes to the Phillies because I'm so focused on the issues that you had down the stretch last year that you look at and go, well, did they address it? You still don't have a right-handed bat in the outfield. You let Hoffman walk. You let Estevez walk, which I was okay with, but you still have these issues in the bullpen. You couldn't trade Alec Boehm, even though we all know they tried this offseason. You couldn't trade him, and I'm not sure Alec Boehm has the psyche to be able to have handled that. Like, some guys can react in a positive way to being on the trade block. So far, it doesn't look like Boehm can. You're still rolling out Brandon Marsh. We were told we were going to try him as an everyday center fielder. Not only can he not hit left-handed pitching, I'm not sure Brandon Marsh is even a Major League Baseball player at this point as an everyday center fielder, even against right-handed pitching. So I understand the criticism, but are we too over the top with it? And you seem to think that we are.
Yeah, I mean, in some cases, you have to give players the benefit of the doubt. But where I think Dave Dombrowski was short-sighted is that he didn't have a fallback plan. So there was no backup plan for if Alec Boehm got off to a slow start, if those shortcomings continued into the season. There was the lack of a right-handed bat. That's on him. But I think he did a nice job of trying to give certain players the benefit of the doubt. Where I think he did come up short, though, and I think we can all agree, there's not a fallback plan. But that's not to say that there won't be. I think he will be aggressive because he knows that the window is very short with this group of players, and for them to get over the hump, he's going to have to do something drastic. At least that's what it looks like on the surface.
Yeah, you're right. And it's a long season. There's 162 games. There's still a lot of time for them to hopefully figure out this bullpen. But we do have our questions with the team. But that's the question we want to throw out to all of you to start the show. Is the criticism of Dave Dombrowski fair? Are we too focused on just the negatives and we're failing to notice some of the positives? Because coming up, I do want to take a look at maybe his best move he's made since he's got here, Dave Dombrowski, and that is Jesus Luzardo. We'll take a look at that trade. And, of course, with the NFL draft 2 weeks away, we're less than 2 weeks away now, and I got football guy Andrew DeCecco here. You know we're going to jump into the draft. So as we talk about general managers and we're talking about Dave Dombrowski, I want to look at Howie Roseman because I think there's a lot of people out there who just assume, Howie's going to hit in the draft again. And are we being naive to think that he's going to bat 1,000 again? Because the odds would tell you this could be a down draft for the Philadelphia Eagles. But we're going to get into all of it coming up. We got a great show planned today. But you could weigh in on the text board, 610-632-0975. Keep it here. We'll be right back.
The Philadelphia 76ers.
Mike Missanelli Show. If you're just joining us, Snow Mikey missed today. He's been off since Wednesday. He's down at Augusta for a tradition like no other with the Masters. Did you watch any of the Masters yesterday, Andrew?
I did not. But me and Andrew Salciunas, we're rolling with Colin. You're going to have to help me with the last name, but we're golfsmen now. we're taking him to win.
Golfsman. So I took Rory McIlroy, and he didn't do a great job yesterday, but he struggles, man. It's like Rory. He's got no mental toughness. But you took Morikawa, I think, right? Is that who you were going with?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Andrew. Andy North was a big. I don't know who Andy North is, but we were talking like we do, like we're a couple of golf guys.
So both of us are in the same boat because Rory's even after the first round, and Morikawa's even as well. Scheffler, who was the favorite coming in to repeat, he's 4 under after day one. But Justin Rose, 8 under after day one. But this is why they play 4 rounds, man.
I was going to say, it's early, just like the Phillies season.
So we will see how it goes. But I'll be watching that this weekend, definitely. I think it's like the Super Bowl for golf fans.
Where would you rank that in your sports calendar?
Oh, man. I mean, number one for me is always football. Like, I'll put football above everything. So the Super Bowl's up there. But now that I've gotten into golf over the last few years, I don't know, man. The Masters has to be right up there.
I was going to say, you're passionate about it.
It's right up there. Like, I got a text yesterday on my golf. I have a group chat with all my golf buddies. And the text was, is anybody but Bill going to get any work done today? Because they knew I was on the air. All of them, like, no. And they were showing me all their work setups. They all got their TVs going. So that'll be fun to watch that unfold all this weekend.
Nice.
But we started the show today. We're talking about the general managers. And we're going to get into Howie Roseman in a second because we got the NFL draft coming up. If you follow Andrew DeCecco, if you saw his special he did last night on the NFL draft, he knows all of these prospects inside and out. So we're going to do a lot of draft talk, and we're going to take a look at Howie Roseman. And is it naive of us to assume that Roseman's going to hit again in the draft, being that they're picking in the bottom of almost every single round, and the success rate they've had over the last couple of years? I know he's a good general manager, but the odds would just tell you there's a pretty good chance they're not going to hit again. Like, you can't just hit 1,000 every single year. But we'll talk about that. But we started the show talking about the Phillies general manager, Dave Dombrowski, because there is all types of hate and criticism, and I'm guilty of it too, all over social media. And we're asking the question, is it fair, the amount of criticism that Dombrowski is getting when you look at an 8-4 baseball team, and we're only focused on the moves he didn't make? Oh, he didn't do enough for the bullpen. He didn't do enough in the outfield. And again, I'm guilty of this too. This is not me lecturing you fans because I feel the same way. I'm so focused on the negative that I'm trying to remind myself Dombrowski's the same guy that traded for Jesus Luzardo this offseason. A guy who's only 27 years old, who in his 3 starts looks healthy, looks like he could be a Cy Young candidate with the way he's pitching. And all they gave up for him was they gave up their number 4 prospect, Starlin Caba, who was a shortstop. He's blocked. There's nowhere for him to go in this organization, so it made sense to trade a shortstop. And they gave up their 23rd prospect, a Marion Boyd, who was an outfielder, and you get a 27-year-old potential ace who's under team control for another year. So is it fair that we're being so critical of Dombrowski for the moves he didn't make and not looking at the really good one that he did?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's totally unfair and way too early to make that determination. I also get a little frustrated when I hear a lot of folks say that the Phillies didn't do anything in the offseason. That's not true. You look at Jesus Luzardo, as you just outlined, Bill. We'll have to wait and see about how Kepler pans out. Some of those bullpen additions, Romano. Yesterday was a good start.
Yeah, he shut him down last night.
Yesterday, that's a good start. That was the first of hopefully what's going to be a lot of successful outings. But the point is that it's way too early to kind of make a conclusion as to any of these players. And I think that I think a lot of these guys are going to look. I feel pretty strongly about Bohm and Brandon Marsh. I don't know that those particular players are going to find their way, but I think a lot of these additions are going to pan out.
Yeah, man, the Bohm thing, the last
very frustrating player to watch.
Yeah, in the last 2 days, I've been really critical of him, and I've seen people come at me in the YouTube chat that, here we go, another Bohm bashing day. And I don't want this to be a Bohm bashing day. It's just he's making it hard. He's making it hard to find any positives. And I get that he is an aggressive hitter, and I get that Bohm likes to go after the first pitch. But when you're struggling as much as Bohm is struggling, why don't you just take a couple pitches? Like, it doesn't seem like it's rocket science to me that, look, I'm struggling a little bit. Usually I'm an aggressive hitter, but it's not working out for me right now. I'm not going to get up here and swing at the first pitch. And he keeps doing it. And then you look in, I guess it was it the 10th inning last night that Bohm comes to the plate? It was such a late night. It's all coming together. But I think I'm going to look to see. I think it was the 10th inning that Bohm comes up to the plate. There's a runner on second and third, was it? Hold on, let me pull this back up. Or was it the 11th?
I think it was
the 11th.
It was the 11th.
Yeah, so Bohm comes up to the plate in the 11th. You already have the runner, the ghost runner that starts on second, which was Castellanos. He gets over to third on a ground out by Kepler, and then they intentionally walk JT Realmuto. So you got one out, runners at the corners. Alec Bohm comes up to the plate. He's got a chance to take the lead in a 1-1 game in extra innings. First pitch inside, he takes it. Great. Second pitch, out of the strike zone, low, and of course, swings at it, pops up, not even deep enough to score Castellanos from third. It's like, I don't want to keep bashing Bohm. He's just making it so easy.
It's maddening. And in any position of leadership, you have to have some semblance of emotional intelligence. So I tip my hat to Rob Thompson for putting Bohm out there at third last night when I probably would have went with Edmundo Sosa. You moved him down the lineup. You're doing everything you can to try and get this guy out of the funk, and he doesn't deliver. So I think at some point you have to wonder, is this sort of a blip on the radar, or is this a trend that's continuing, and are you able to rescue this guy? Because right now it's looking like they can't. So at some point, if you're Rob Thompson, this is a production-based business, you have to make a decision.
Yeah, and Rob Thompson, I give him a lot of credit. He did move Bohm down in the lineup, and I asked that question on the show yesterday, would you do it? And I said, look, I think in previous years, Rob Thompson probably wouldn't do it this early. He's allowed a lot of times complacency to set in. I didn't like the way he managed down the stretch last year. But he seems like a different manager this year. He's been more aggressive in a lot of his decisions. And not only did they flip-flop Castellanos and Bohm, they even moved Bohm to the 7th spot yesterday.
That's what I'm saying.
Which I thought was a surprise. But I like that he's doing it. But Castellanos didn't give you much in the cleanup spot. But
it's too early to kind of just scrap that. I think they still have to try and see this through.
Yeah, look, 8-4 baseball team. They're in St. Louis tonight, a little bit later of a start, but they're going to be tired tonight, man. With getting out of there, out of Atlanta late, I don't know how it'll work out. But we'll take a look at that game later on in the show. We're going to get to your text shortly on whether or not it's fair to be so critical of Dave Dombrowski. But I want to switch gears and talk about the other general manager as well coming up next, and that's Howie Roseman, because I just keep seeing universally from fans, Howie's going to have a great draft. And I think we may be a little naive to expect him to do it again. So what we're going to do with our football guy here, Andrew DeCecco, I'm going to take a look at like the last 5 drafts for Howie Roseman. And we're going to declare whether or not they were a success or whether or not they were a miss cumulatively between the drafts. And I think when we go through this exercise, we're going to see probably how unlikely it is that he has another successful draft. So we'll do all of that coming up next.
Fanatic Sports Update.
I'm Austin Jones, and this is your Fanatic Sports Update. This update is brought to you by Bradford White Water Heaters. When you need a new water heater, choose one that is built to be the best. Choose Bradford White. The Phillies lost last night to the Atlanta Braves as Marcell Ozuna hit a 2-run walk-off home run in the bottom of the 11th inning to win 4-2 after a long rain delay. The Phillies face the St. Louis Cardinals at 8:15 tonight, and Aaron Nola will be on the mound. The 76ers are back in action tonight to face the Atlanta Hawks. Tip-off is set for 7 p.m. You can listen to that game here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The Flyers are off tonight, but they'll return tomorrow for a day game against the New York Islanders. Puck drop is for 12:30. You can listen to the game here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The Union will also be playing Saturday. They'll face New York City at 7:30, and you can listen to that game here on 97.5 The Fanatic. This update is also brought to you by Discover. Discover wants everyone to feel special. That's why they double all the cash back you've earned on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/credit card. I'm Austin Jones on the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic, 97.5thefanatic.com.
Hall of Fame baseball insider
You're enjoying this rainy Friday, but at least the weekend's here. And if you stayed up last night for that rain delay Phillies game, my apologies that you had to watch the bullpen give up a double and a home run in the 11th.
Big Joe Ross.
Big Joe Ross. But before that, actually, the bullpen wasn't too bad. You saw Carlos Hernandez come in and did all right. Tanner Banks did all right.
Tanner Banks was the big one because the other day, it looked like batting practice when he was out there.
Yeah, Jordan Romano goes 1, 2, 3, I think, in his time. So, look, we're trying to look for some positives. It was
Strom's looked good.
Strom's great. I mean, you look at that bullpen, and we've talked about it. There's the one guy you can definitely trust is Strom. The other one is Alvarado. The issue is, well, who's the right arm that you can trust? You got Kirkring, but these guys are pitching a lot of innings. And
I think Kirkring's going to be good. I think he's going to have a good year.
I'm hoping, but I was listening to the pregame show yesterday with Ricky Batalico, and Amy was hosting yesterday.
Nice.
And they went to Corey Seidman, who was in Atlanta, who covers the Phillies for NBC Sports Philadelphia, and he was looking at the amount of appearances already, even though it's been a short season, the amount of appearances from Strom, Alvarado, and Kirkring, and all three of the guys were on pace for like 80 appearances. And you looked at last year's numbers, no one had more than like 65 appearances, and that was Hoffman, who you then saw hit a wall in the postseason. So it's not likely you can just keep going to these guys.
No, they'll be burnt out. They need somebody else to step up.
So
they're going to have to add an arm.
Yeah, and they probably will at the deadline, but that's why we started the show talking about Dombrowski. Is the criticism fair? Because he didn't really address the bullpen. He tried to with some of these guys he's brought in, but hasn't worked out yet. Didn't really address the outfield. So I want to hear from you, because when I ask, is the criticism of Dombrowski fair, the reason I brought it up is I was trying to remind myself, too. I've been so critical of him that I'm ignoring the Jesus Luzardo move, which looks to be unbelievable. I mean, the Phillies, when you look at this rotation, and Ranger Suarez had his rehab outing last night. I'll give you those stats coming up later on in the show, but that's encouraging. You're talking about one of the best, if not the best, rotations in all of baseball. So is the criticism fair of Dombrowski? And you can weigh in 610-632-0975. What do we have on the text board with that, Austin?
Yeah, so our first text of the day was, can we just give the Phillies a chance to play until the middle of the season and then judge them? We don't know yet. Stop it. MJ from Pottstown.
Well, we have to talk about it every day. It's 162 games here, so.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, me and Ray, in that, do we overreact too much to the early season takeaways? And what I said is, this is the best part about sports, though. Like, when you're a fanatic, which is what fan means, right? You're a fanatic. You live and die every night. So it's nice to be able to look and say, all right, well, these are the potential weaknesses. And I get it. It is a 162-game season. But even the biggest positive fan of the Phillies, like even Connor, who tends to lean positive, right? Connor's a very optimistic guy. It's hard to watch the Phillies over the first 12 games and say, bullpen's fine, man.
Yeah.
No. Outfield, we're going to be just fine. Like,
yeah, we'll take a pulse check in August. I mean,
even Rob Thompson is acknowledging, even though he's not saying it publicly, with his moves that he's made, is acknowledging that there's some issues. Like when you put Edmundo Sosa, who's never played left field in his entire life, in left field, you're acknowledging, you really didn't give me anything, Dave. Dave, you really didn't give me a right-handed bat. I got to get creative now and put a guy who's never played the position out.
Yeah, I mean, are we supposed to turn a blind eye to that? We got to talk about it.
Yeah, so look, I appreciate MJ texting in, but we're going to continue with the Dombrowski stuff. But I do want to talk about the other general manager in this town, and that's Howie Roseman, because there's been universal negativity almost. I feel like 90% of Phillies fans are being critical of Dombrowski, but then rightfully so, there's been this universal trust in Howie Roseman, and it's hard not to be. The guy, I think, is the greatest general manager in the entire NFL right now for what he's done and the roster that he's built. But we got the draft coming up in less than 2 weeks, and the Eagles have the 32nd overall pick in the first round. They're picking last in the second round, and they're picking last in the third round. But everyone just assumes, all these needs, we'll get them in the draft, right? We'll get them in the draft. And I think that you're being a little bit naive. And I know Andrew's probably going to disagree with me here. But before I ask you whether or not we're being naive, I want to do this exercise where we look at his last 5 drafts, and I want you to grade it as a hit or a miss. Mm-hmm. In cumulatively, not just, hey, that player was a hit, but like total. We'll see if he hit more than he missed.
Right.
All right, 2024. I don't even know if we need to do it. I think everyone's going to say hit,
Yep,
but you got
that's a hit.
Yeah, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Jalix Hunt with your first 3 picks. I don't even think I need to read the rest of them to you. But you got Will Shipley in the 4th round, which I think you're expecting a bigger role for Will Shipley.
Yeah,
this year.
as the second running back, I think he can provide a change of pace, which the Eagles really need to spell Saquon Barkley, and he can catch the ball and has some explosive traits. I like him.
Now, when we look at the Phillies running back room, or excuse me, Phillies, I'm so on this Philly stuff. When you look at the Eagles running back room, and Saquon's is the big guy, but do you think it'll be Shipley or A.J. Dillon that gets a majority of the carries after Saquon?
Shipley. Because here's my thing. I'm a little bit on the fence about A.J. Dillon and his long-term viability to be a fit for the Eagles. He didn't play last season with a neck injury, and the way that he plays, his body type, his downhill running style, that's kind of redundant to what you're getting from Saquon Barkley. Obviously, Saquon Barkley can do anything. He could, hit the crease, take it outside, hit the home run. But when you're spelling your starting running back, you kind of want to have that change up, and that would be Will Shipley. They drafted him in the 4th round. There's obviously more investment in Will Shipley. Hey, if A.J. Dillon pans out, great. But to your point, Bill, they do lack for depth there because there's only 2 other players behind that, Ty Davis-Price and Lou Nichols, who were both reserve future signings.
I'm excited for. We talked a lot, you and I, leading into the draft last year about Will Shipley, and then once they drafted him, we talked about it too. Like he probably would have been drafted higher if he ran at the combine last year, and he didn't.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for Will Shipley, and you saw kind of his potential in that last game, and clearly his teammates love him. I mean, Saquon was more excited than anybody on that team when Shipley had that long run.
And that's a guy that I got to know, and I talk to him every single week for my Rookie Diary series, and whatever his role is, Bill, he fixates on it, whether it was special teams. He said he hadn't tackled anybody since high school, but that's the role that he had, and if he made a mistake, he had to command he owned that. He had to be the personal protector on punt. He said, I've never done that before, but I had to be vocal, and I had to hold everybody accountable. And then he said his favorite play of the year was forcing that fumble in the NFC title game. So that kind of tells you where his mindset. He scored his first NFL touchdown in that game, by the way.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
So I think he's ready, and he knows that he needs to work on pass protection. That's something that he's going to make a point of emphasis in the offseason.
And you look at the rest of last year's draft, still a lot of question marks in Anaya Smith, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Trevor Keegan. Johnny Wilson, who they took in the 6th round, they like a lot. He got some playing time this year. Big body, can block. And then Dylan McMahon didn't make the team, which surprised me a little bit. But
he's grossly undersized. He was. I don't know where he landed after that.
Everybody saw him and thought, Jason Kelsey, right? An undersized center being drafted in the 6th round.
He looked like somebody that played for a local Catholic school around here, Bishop Shanahan or something.
But I'm going to look at the first 4 picks of each draft, and we'll declare whether or not they were a hit.
All right.
There's a resounding hit in 2024 with Mitchell, DeJean, Hunt, and Shipley. So coming up, we'll take a look at 2023, and we'll go all the way back to 2020, and we're going to look whether or not they were hits or misses in the draft. And the reason we're doing this exercise is I then am going to ask you, Andrew DeCecco, and our listeners, are we being naive to think that there could be another hit by Howie Roseman in this year's draft to address some of the needs? And we'll get into that conversation coming up next.
We want to hear from you, so text us at 610.
97.5 The Fanatic. Hope you're enjoying your Friday morning. We're talking Phillies. We're talking Eagles to start the show. We're focused on the general managers a little bit because Dave Dombrowski's getting a lot of heat for the moves he didn't make. And I'm starting to ask myself, are we being a little bit unfair? Because we're ignoring the good move that he did make, which was Jesus Luzardo, who had another amazing outing last night. But you can weigh in on that question on our text board, 610-632-0975. Is it fair to be so critical of Dombrowski this early in the season when there were some good moves made and you still got an 8-4 baseball team? But we've changed gears a little bit. Andrew DeCecco's with me today. Mikey Miss is down in Augusta. No Ray Dunn today either, so I'm the one holding down the fort. We got Austin Jones behind the glass.
It's just like one of those 80s bands where you have like the lead singer and everybody else is like fill-ins.
Yeah, man. But we're having some fun today. And if you've listened to Andrew DeCecco in the past, you know how much he knows the NFL draft and all these prospects. But when we talk about general managers, there's this, I don't want to call it blind faith. It's not blind faith, but almost this overconfidence.
The benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, this overconfidence that Howie's just going to have another great draft. And I love Howie Roseman. This is not me being critical of him. I would give him a lifetime contract. I said that yesterday. Give him a lifetime contract, best GM in the NFL, maybe in all of sports. But are we being a little bit too overconfident that he's going to hit in the draft again? And the reason I ask that is we're doing an exercise where we're looking at his last 5 drafts. And it's unlikely, I think, that he's going to be able to hit again when you look at what he's done. So in 2024, we declared it an absolute hit. Let's look at 2023. The first 2 picks alone, man, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. I don't even think we need to go through the rest of the draft. Huge hits. But you could go, let's jump down all the way to the 7th round.
Moro Ojomo. That may be the best draft pick he's had. Ringo, Tanner McKee.
Keely Ringo, Tanner McKee, Sidney Brown, Tyler Steen. Now, question mark still on Tyler Steen.
Not for me, but yes, yeah.
I know you're high on Steen, right? And I've heard a lot of people on the other side of that where they don't think that Steen is necessarily going to be the answer at guard. You disagree. You think he will be the starter this year.
I do. And he was the front runner last year, but you got to give credit to Mekhi Becton for seizing the opportunity when Steen had the ankle injury. But I think he moves pretty well for the guard spot, for that guard position. And when you have premier players on that offensive line, you can kind of hide that right guard. I think he's going to be just fine.
All right, so when we're looking at that draft, massive hit. Again, just between Carter, Nolan Smith, Moro Ojomo alone would do it for you. But when you add in your confidence level in Tyler Steen, and then Sidney Brown, Keely Ringo, we'll see what we have. I'm higher on Ringo than you are.
Yes.
I know. I heard you yesterday with Tyrone saying he's very handsy at
definitely.
practice. I still have confidence that Ringo's going to show us something. But either way, we'll declare 2023 a hit. Then you go to 2022. Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, Nakobe Dean, Kyron Johnson, Grant Calcaterra. Well, 4 out of those 5 have really contributed to the success of this football team last year.
That's a hit.
Massive hit. Like, these are all massive hits. This is why I'm proving my point. I know you're going to disagree with me, but I'm proving my point here. 2021, another massive draft for Howie Roseman. Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, Milton Williams. You got Kenneth Gainwell in that draft. Now, outside of that, leaves a little bit to be desired with Zach McPherson, Marlon Tupelotu, Teron Jackson, Jacoby Stevens, Patrick Johnson, who's back now.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, look, if you can hang on this long as a 7th-round pick, that's a win.
Yeah, but even still, when you look at the first 3, and then his 5th rounder in Kenneth Gainwell, again, massive hit.
Yeah, that's a hit.
I think we would all agree the last time he had a bad draft would have been 2020 because he took Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. But they also got Jalen Hurts that year. Like, that's just sometimes what we forget is like, yeah, 20.
Yeah, that might outweigh all the bad.
Yes, but 2020 outside of Jalen Hurts was kind of a disastrous draft. You had Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. You took Davion Taylor in the 3rd round, Kevon Wallace, Jack Driscoll, John Hightower, Sean Bradley, Quez Watkins in the 6th. Prince Winogo. I don't even remember Prince.
Prince Tega Winogo. Yeah, he had on the Chiefs practice squad or something. Yeah.
And then Casey Toohill, who didn't work out here either. So when I look at this, let's say, even though they got Hurts in the 2020 draft,
right?
Let's say that was a miss, right? That would mean that Howie Roseman has had 4 drafts in a row that we would call massive success. 4 drafts in a row, massive success. When you look around the NFL and you look at the hit rate of even the best general managers, even the best teams when it comes to the draft, can he really go 5 for 5? Like, are we really expecting him to go 5 for 5, Andrew?
I am. I absolutely am.
Look.
What evidence do you have to suggest that he won't nail this draft?
All right. Let's look at Quinyon Mitchell was a great pick, right? And Cooper DeJean was a great pick. But they got Quinyon at 22, and they moved up to get Cooper at 40. They're not picking until 32 and 64.
I know where they're picking.
So, I mean, you're going to have to...
I also know what kind of players should be within the range, and I'm trusting Howie Roseman to make the right decision.
All right, then you look at the 2023 draft that we're saying massive success. They got Carter at 9, and they got Nolan Smith at 30.
Right.
So 2 of their best players they got even before they're on the draft board this year.
But they got Nolan, you just said it, they got Nolan Smith at 30. So they've proven that they can find talent or the right player later in the draft. So, look, man, I'm pretty...
And then 2022, Jordan Davis was taken 13th overall. 2021, Devontae Smith was taken 10th overall. It's just knowing what you know about the NFL, okay? Knowing what you know about what the likelihood is of success. It's a crapshoot. Even picking in the top of the draft is a crapshoot. We really think that Howie Roseman, who's batted 1,000 the last 4 years, you think he's going to do it again 5 years in a row?
Well, I admit that the further down the draft board you're picking, the likelihood of nailing that pick decreases significantly. However, you have to look at the Eagles scouting department, Howie Roseman himself. They do their due diligence. No matter if I go to a pro day, there's at least 2 representatives from the Eagles there, and that's scattered across the country, I have to imagine. I'm just going to Maryland, Rutgers, Penn State, all those places. They do their due diligence, and I think that Howie Roseman is one of the savviest general managers, the savviest general manager in the sport, and he always goes into every offseason not looking to be just fine. He takes it personal. He wants to make sure that he sets the team up for sustained success, and based on track record alone, I mean, I don't know how you can be anything other than optimistic.
All right, well, you mentioned something when you were talking about Nolan Smith at 30, and you said, knowing what you know about the players that may be there, that's why you have confidence that he's going to have a good one. Like,
that's about taking the right player.
All right, well, when we come back, I want to get a couple players from you because I think part of the reason there hasn't been as much buzz around the draft in the city as there usually is, 1, the Super Bowl, but 2, because they're picking so far down the draft board, a lot of people just don't know who's going to be available. Like, we all know the big names, right? Everyone knows Abdul Carter and where's Sanders going to go. Yeah, Travis Hunter's going in the top of the draft, Cam Ward. But who's going to be there? Like, give me some players that maybe the Eagles could get in the bottom of the draft where you think they could come in year 1 and maybe contribute to this team that's trying to repeat. So we'll get a name from Andrew DeCecco. But I want to hear from you. Like, as much as I love Howie Roseman and as much as I trust Howie Roseman, I'm not going into this draft necessarily expecting him to hit it out of the park again. I don't think there's any general manager that you could expect to go 5 straight years of having a masterful draft. So I want to hear from you. 610-632-0975. We'll get a couple players that could be on the board from Andrew DeCecco when we get back.
Fanatic Sports Update.
I'm Austin Jones, and this is your Fanatic Sports Update. The Phillies lost to the Atlanta Braves last night as Marcell Ozuna hit a 2-run walk-off home run in the bottom of the 11th inning to win 4-2 after a long rain delay. Today, the Phillies face the St. Louis Cardinals at 8:15 as Aaron Nola will be on the mound. The Sixers are back in action tonight to face the Atlanta Hawks. Tip-off is for 7 p.m. You can listen to that game here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The Flyers are off tonight, but they will return tomorrow for a day game to face the New York Islanders. Puck drop is for 12:30, and you can listen to that game here on 97.5 The Fanatic. It's a busy slate on Saturday. The Union are facing New York City Saturday night at 7:30, and you can listen to that game where? On 97.5 The Fanatic. This update's also brought to you by Rapid Radios. Rapid Radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage for a limited time. Go to rapidradios.com now for 60% off and free UPS shipping. Add code RADIO and get an extra 5% off. I'm Austin Jones, and the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Just got some big news during the break. And you may have just heard Tyrone's promo about it. But tomorrow, over at Ladder 15, it's their ladder day. It's like their anniversary. But from 6:30 to 8:30, you're going to get Brandon Graham, and I'm going to be joining him. We're going to be guest bartending down there.
Nice.
So you can meet BG, and this is all for Crooked Tea. Have you ever had Crooked Tea? It's delicious.
I don't think that I have.
Oh, yeah, you got to try
But I'm
it.
intrigued. I do like iced tea.
Yeah, so this
especially
is
that variety.
So they got the Crooked Tea. They got a lot of different flavors. They got tongue, cheek, and rad, I think is what they're called. But they got all different flavors. It's delicious. So Brandon Graham's going to be down there. We're celebrating with Ladder 15, but we're going to be giving out the Crooked Teas they're selling down there. So make sure you come check it out, say hi to me, and then, if you want to say hi to Brandon Graham, I don't know. You think people will be more excited to say hi to me or BG?
Definitely you.
Yeah, I'm not.
I was going to say you, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too sure
I thought
about
that was
one.
a no-brainer, but
Not too sure about that. But we're talking about general managers today, and a lot of people were focused on the negatives with Dave Dombrowski. I'm trying to not be negative today, even though they lost last night and I stayed up and I'm exhausted. But we're also looking at the NFL draft, and we're looking forward. And I'm a little bit concerned about the draft because I just think it's unlikely to expect Howie Roseman to hit again.
But hold on a second. I want you to tell me why you think that it's unlikely.
I just think when you play, when you look at probabilities and you look at statistics and everything else, it's just there's no general manager that can hit 100% of the time.
So you're going with the law of averages?
I'm going with the law of averages. I'm looking at Howie Roseman and I'm thinking, okay, they're picking in the bottom of each draft. They're in a draft that I keep hearing, and I'm going to get your opinion on this, is not a very good draft. I know they're deep in some positions, but it's not a very good draft. And now you're accompanying that with the fact that they're picking at the bottom of every round. And I just think that to assume that they're going to be able to find guys that are going to contribute, and I guess I should clarify, this season. You know how unlikely it is that players come in like Quinion, Cooper DeJean, and Jalix Hunt and contribute to a Super Bowl team in their rookie season? Because even Nolan Smith, that you got 30 2 years ago, he didn't look good as a rookie. So
a lot of folks didn't think he could play.
So how do we know that he's going to, he's Howie Roseman, master drafter. And he has been.
He is. 4 years in a row.
But that's why I'm looking at the law of averages. I'm looking at traditionally the hit rate in the draft across the board in the NFL. And the fact that the Eagles have hit 4 years in a row, I wouldn't be shocked if this was a little bit of a down draft.
You're entitled to your opinion, of course, Bill, but I'm going to give you a few
You don't have
players.
to be polite. You realize I do this show with Mike, right?
What
I get called an idiot on a daily basis, so please come
if I
at
give you
me.
a couple of players that I believe could help the Eagles in 2025 that will be or should be available at 32.
Yes, that's what I want to get to you, and I want to let everybody know you're listening to WPEN and WPEN HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. So let's look at that. So I do want to get into a little bit later on in the show whether or not it's likely if he moves up, moves out, but let's assume for a second Howie Roseman stays at 32.
Okay.
I know you know these prospects inside and out. Give me a couple of names and tell me about these players that could be there when the Eagles are on the clock.
I'll give you three. So we'll start with edge rusher Donovan Ezeraku from Boston College, 6'2", 250, really long arms, Williamstown, New Jersey native, but he fits the prototype of what the Eagles traditionally look for from their edge rushers. And talk about production, Bill. Last season, 20.5 tackles for loss, 16.5 sacks, wildly productive. And I think that if you draft a player like that, he can help you in a situational role because I'm a really big believer in Jalix Hunt and Nolan Smith. How about defensive tackle Walter Nolan from Ole Miss? That's a player that early on in the process, no one thought he was going to be available at 32, but all of a sudden, and I went through my big board of defensive tackles last night in my draft special, he's fifth. So there is a world in which he could be available. And
I've seen him as high as the top 15.
But then now recently you're starting to see certain mock drafts, whether it be Mel Kiper or Todd McShay, you take your pick, you're seeing him surface at 32 or thereabouts. 6'2", about 300 pounds. He has good short area quickness, and he is an interior force. He would provide pressure and be a really, really good complement opposite Jalen Carter. So those are two players right there off the bat that I believe can help the Eagles in the immediate future. Another player, tight end Mason Taylor from LSU.
You love this guy.
6'5", 252 pounds. good bloodlines. Jason Taylor's son, Zach Taylor's his uncle, but more importantly, his skill set kind of reminds me of Zach Ertz. His ability to find the soft spots in zone, stretch teams vertically, really polished route runner, and I believe the most well-rounded tight end in the draft. And I'll say it, I think he's going to have the best career of any of the tight ends in this draft.
Wow, even more than Tyler Warren.
Oh, yeah, I think so, because I think, by the way, Mason Taylor's 20 years old. He turns 21 next month, and I don't believe that LSU even used him to the best of his ability. I think there's another level that he can hit, whereas Tyler Warren, I think we've kind of seen how, and he has been great, but I think we've seen what he can do.
All right, so I'm looking at the three guys, and I like all three of these guys. And I'm looking at the positions. So you got an edge rusher, a defensive tackle, and a tight end. So now this leads me to something I really want to talk to you about. Because I know you are a big proponent, as most football guys are, and I've always been in agreement with best player available, right? You always take the best player available. You don't go into the draft and look for need. However, all three of these guys, you would agree, is a position of need, maybe the biggest position of need for the Philadelphia Eagles.
But they also would happen to be the best player available. At least I don't think it'd be debatable that Ezeraku and certainly Walter Nolan would be the best player available. And you don't know how the Eagles board is. They may very well have Mason Taylor as the best player available there. There are, and I've sort of gathered this throughout the process, there are teams that have Mason Taylor as a first-round prospect. Some of them have them over Colston Loveland from Michigan. So it wouldn't be a reach by any stretch. It's just a matter of where the Eagles have him on their board.
So just so happens you think these players would be. Let's assume, and I think I heard you talking about this on the morning show the other day. Like, let's assume the best player available is at a position the Eagles don't need. Like, I think we would agree they're not taking a quarterback at 32, right? We give me that at least.
Yeah, what about? Yes, I agree.
Right,
what about Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver from Ohio State?
Well, that's the next question I have for you, because you look at this team, and wide receiver for me, I know some people were disappointed with the Jahan Dotson production that he gave you this year. I think it's a little unfair when they were the 29th ranked passing offense. Like, you didn't expect your third wide receiver and really your fourth option behind AJ, Devontae, and Goddard to have huge numbers. Mm-hmm. But when he was called upon, he answered. But I look at the wide receiver position, at least for me, I don't care if the best player available at 32 is a wide receiver. I would be angry if they went wide receiver in the first round.
I think in that case, you deviate and you go for your next best player available on your board.
I'm beating him down, Austin. I'm beating him down. He's drafting for need now. You hear?
No.
Don't you change, Andrew.
He's drafted for
Hold
need.
your ground.
I held my ground yesterday when me and Ty were talking about this. We kicked this idea around. I still think that if Walter Nolan is there, given how the Eagles prioritize the trenches, he would be their best player available. Donovan Ezeraku probably would be their best player available. Edge rusher. You have to look at the organizational philosophy. So I think that would, I don't think that's a stretch at all. They may have Egbuka further down their rankings. We don't know.
All right, so
I'm just throwing a name out.
So you would eliminate quarterback, wide receiver. Are there any other positions where if the best player available was at that position, you would say, you know what, maybe you deviate? What about a running back? What if the best player available at 32 is a running back?
Yeah, there's no shot that the best player available wouldn't be a running back. They're usually pushed down the draft board a little bit, and the Eagles wouldn't do that. Really nothing's off the table aside from quarterback, running back. Yeah,
and wide receiver.
Wide receiver. I still think, to be clear, that the Eagles should address that on day 3 because there's not a lot of depth there. There's behind Jahan Dotson, there's Johnny Wilson and Anais Smith and Danny Gray, who I really like, who was on their practice squad last year, 3rd-round pick of the 49ers a few years ago, can fly. But there's not a lot of competition there.
What do you mean? They made that big signing yesterday, Andrew.
I forgot.
I'm seeing it all
Marshall.
over social media, man.
Yeah.
Great. What a great move. Yeah, tell me about this guy.
Dynamite. Yeah, 2nd-round pick, LSU. I liked him coming out of college, but the Eagles are now his 4th team. This is Terrace Marshall we're talking about. Look, I got questions, man. If you couldn't stick with the Panthers or the Raiders, and you're 24 years old and you have the pedigree and all of that, I don't know. He played in 43 career games. He's going to provide some competition. I like that he has the size, and he's going to give some of those defensive backs some work. But it's important to remember that you need 90 players to get to training camp. So,
yeah, he's just a camp body,
and also, who is he really pushing for a roster spot? Is he really, viable competition to Johnny Wilson? Probably not. Maybe Anais Smith.
I liked Anais Smith last year coming. He still holds what? The record for the most yards in SEC history, right? All-purpose yards.
Yeah, he caught a touchdown in the season finale.
So I like him.
And he can return punts, too, which is worth noting.
And your buddy Britton Covey's not here anymore, right?
Now he's a free agent currently.
You think he's coming back?
I do not.
Yeah, I think it's time to move on from crash test dummy Covey. Man.
That's not nice. It's Covey, by the way, but it's all right.
What did I call him? Britton Covey?
Covey.
I knew it was Covey. Why did I say Covey? I knew that.
Words can be hard at times.
Words can be hard at times, Austin. All right, well, listen, we're going to continue to get to the text board. We're talking about whether the criticism of Dave Dombrowski's fair, but we detoured a little bit to talk some NFL draft with Andrew DeCecco here. And I just think that we're being a little naive to assume that Howie Roseman's going to hit in the draft again for the 5th straight season when he's picking 32nd. And I say when he's picking 32nd, and I see people in the YouTube chat saying, there's no way he's picking 32nd. So when we get back, I want to look at that scenario. And there was a good article by, I think it was Kempsky on Philly Voice. Yeah, Jimmy Kempsky on Philly Voice looked at all of the first-round draft picks since Howie Roseman's been the general manager, eliminating 2015 when Chip Kelly was in charge, and looking at how many times he's moved up, how many times he's moved back, and how many times he's stayed put. Because a lot of people are just assuming, no way Howie Roseman stays put. Well, we'll see. We'll talk about that coming up next.
Andrew Salciunas.
I can't kind of make some.
And if you're looking for something to do tonight, maybe take advantage of the Fanatic Deal of the Week. Our Fanatic Deals of the Week are always good, but this one's awesome. So you could go to Broad Street Brewing in Bristol, and check this out. You get a $50 voucher for just $25. Broad Street Brewing celebrates Philly's vibrant culture and rich history with expertly crafted beer that pays tribute to the spirit of Philadelphia. Get this exclusive offer while supplies last at 975thefanatic.com/deals. So take advantage of it. Get $25, you get 50, and then go hang out at Broad Street Brewing tonight.
Out in Bristol. I know you had dinner out there not long ago.
That's Mikey Miss's hometown, man. I did have dinner over there because Mikey Miss got me a gift card to that King George Inn, which was delicious. But I got to check out this Broad Street Brewing. I haven't been there. I may take advantage of this deal of the week.
Well, I think you should. Sounds very enticing.
Oh, they're always good. All right, speaking of enticing, Howie Roseman moving up and down the draft board. You know he loves to make trades during the draft. So the question that we kind of have been kicking around here is, Andrew doesn't understand why I'm nervous that Howie Roseman's not going to hit again in the draft. He's saying, like, what reason do I have to believe he's not? And I'm just looking at the law of averages saying he's had 4 great drafts in a row, and it's extremely unlikely for anyone, even as good as Howie Roseman has been as a general manager, it's extremely unlikely for him to hit again in the draft.
So you're like, 4 was good, but 5, that's way too much.
Dude,
That's
it'd
not
be
gonna
crazy,
happen.
man. It'd be crazy, especially because of where he's picking. Like, to be at the bottom. And then I saw a lot of people in the YouTube chat saying, no. He's moving up. You know he's moving up.
Moving up for who, though?
Well, that would be the big question. See, you don't think that before I even look at the history, because I'm going to look at the history of all of the drafts that Howie Roseman has been a part of or in charge of, and how many times they've moved in the first round. Like, do you think, if you were predicting, is there anybody that you could see him moving up to get and he would have the draft capital to do it?
Not really. I mean, Malachi Starks, the safety from Georgia, would be a player that would be a quintessential fit in Vic Fangio's defense, but I don't know. That's a safety. I don't view the Eagles as a team that's going to be aggressive in trading up for a safety in the first round.
I don't think they've ever drafted a safety in the first round.
No, and I don't think they're going to start this year, as much as they really like him. They do like him, by the way, but I don't know. This draft is very top-heavy, and it's kind of hard for me to see. I could see Howie trading down and picking up some more assets, and the player that you want to target at 32 likely is available at 36 or wherever you decide to trade down from.
Now, you mentioned Malachi Starks, and I know there's a couple other safeties that people like, the safety out of Notre Dame.
Xavier Watts, yeah.
There's safety out of Penn State, too, right?
Kevin Winston Jr.
That people like. But the thing is when I've been reading this, and I know you know this draft inside and out, but what I've been reading is this is a fairly light draft in terms of safeties. Would you agree with that?
Starting level safeties, yes. You can get depth players that can help you on special teams and maybe be a third safety. But, yeah, if for the Eagles, I think it would serve them well either the first or the second day. Likely the second day. At 64, they should have their pick from, say, Xavier Watts from Notre Dame, maybe an Andrew Makuba from Texas, who I really like, rangy player, high IQ, maybe the smartest defensive player in the draft from the players that I've looked at. So they're going to have some options. Kevin Winston Jr., although he was injured earlier in the year, so you have to wonder where he's at health-wise. That's why he fell out of my top 5 when I did my big board last night.
Yeah.
Billy Bowman Jr. from Oklahoma is a player that I think is starting to get some steam. He's my 5th safety.
You listening to this guy, Austin? I mean, it's just, it's insane. I always hear John Kincade blown away that there's no notes in front of him, but, like, no notes.
It's like an encyclopedia of just football.
5'10", 192, really good turnover. He had 4 defensive touchdowns over the past 2 years.
I'm actually starting to worry about him a little bit.
Andrew, do you sleep at all?
Like, what does he do at night?
I don't really sleep now.
Yeah, I'm curious.
I sleep like 4 hours.
Because I'm really curious. Like, I've heard you on other shows doing this, and I listened to you last night doing your draft special.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So, like, you leave here, right? What do you do? Do you just go home and watch film all night?
No, I watch the Phillies. But I really I continue to do my homework, man, because the audience deserves the knowledge, man. I got to give them the knowledge.
But how do you do that? Like, are you locked in a dark room for just hours every single day?
Yeah, I eat once a day. No, I'm kidding.
the darkness retreat?
I allow myself to eat once a day, but I have to stay committed to the film breakdowns and
yeah,
staying
the
on
fanatic,
phone calls and
the
all
fanatic does it. We just put him in a dark room and we slide food under the door. Are you done your analysis?
Yeah, you're on Kincade and Salciunas tomorrow morning. Make sure you got some good stuff.
So, but you said something interesting that you don't think there's a lot of starting caliber safeties in this draft, right?
Right.
But then along the same lines, you said you couldn't see the Eagles trading up to get a safety.
Right, but I also said at 64, they could have their pick from about 3 different players that would be starting caliber safeties.
So you think they could get a starting caliber safety that late in the draft?
In the second round?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So then
I don't think that's
it's just how many second round players? I know Cooper DeJean did it this year. But how many second round draft picks? Like even looking at the Eagles' second round draft picks over the years, like they didn't have one. They had Cooper DeJean last year. They didn't have a second round pick the year before. They did take Cam Jurgens in the 2022 draft.
Worked out pretty well,
but he didn't start as a rookie.
I know, but there was a reason for that. He had some sort of a blockage there. They had other players.
Yeah, I think they had a guy named Jason Kelsey at center.
Yeah, and even at guard,
Isaac Siamala. Yeah. Right, so you understand that. And then I'm going back to some of his other second-round picks. Landon Dickerson did start as a rookie. Jalen Hurts in 2020 didn't start until midway through the season. He worked out pretty well. Miles Sanders was a second-round pick. Oh, God. I don't even want to say the name.
J.J.
Arcega-Whiteside.
As soon as he was drafted, somebody said, what do you think? I was like, he can't play.
Oh, man. All right, well, let's take a look, though, because a lot of people are saying he's going to move up. He's going to move up, or he's going to trade out of that pick. So,
I think he'll trade out of it. He's more likely to trade out of the first round than he is to trade up. But to your point about safety, yeah, I mean, there's 3 different players there that I believe if they target, let's say it's 64.
Yeah.
Or maybe they trade up from 64. I don't think in the first round they're going to trade up, but that's not to say in the second round, maybe they want to trade up for a Mason Taylor even, a tight end, who I believe is a top 45 player. Or they want to trade up and secure one of those safeties, maybe a Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. I could see them doing that, and I do believe that the safeties that I mentioned are more advanced and would give them a little bit more defensively than Sidney Brown.
So I'm looking at Howie Roseman's history in the first round. He's been in charge of 15 NFL drafts because we're not going to include the 2015 year that Chip Kelly took over. It's still Chip Kelly, man. Still makes me angry. But you look
back in the NFL, man.
I know he is. So you got 15 times. He's traded up in the first round 6 out of 15. So the people who are just assuming he's definitely moving up, he's only moved up 6 times. Now, he did it to get Brandon Graham, which was crazy because he got criticized for that pick. They did it to get Fletcher Cox. That worked out. They did it to get Carson Wentz, Andre Dillard,
Devontae,
Jordan Davis, and Jalen Carter.
No, they didn't trade up for Devontae. That's right.
Well, they did, but they traded back and then up.
Oh, okay. Well,
right.
I mean, that still counts.
Yeah, so Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith, they traded back, and then they moved back up to get him. Now, Goddard was in the second round, but they traded back into the second round and then moved back up. But just simply trading up, he's done 6 times. Now, you said you think it's likely that they would trade out of the first round. Like, that would be more likely than moving up. In his 15 drafts, he's only traded back and then not up once.
Okay.
You know who it was for?
Traded back?
He traded back in the first round, and then they took this guy who was an absolute bust.
Trevor Laws.
No.
Smith.
Trevor Laws in the second round. What?
Austin got it.
Oh, let's go.
Marcus Smith.
Marcus Smith's a great guy, though.
They moved back 4 spots, and then they took Smith, who was a legendary bust.
He's a great guy, though. I'll tell you that. I had a nice chat with him at the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
Yeah, I'm
but
sure.
Yes,
I'm sure he's a nice guy. He just couldn't play.
He just couldn't play.
Now, they stayed put 6 times. They took another legendary bust. Fireman Danny Watkins.
He was like 27 years old when they drafted him.
26, I think.
Oh.
Good memory, though. Lane Johnson worked out. I mean, it was kind of easy.
But if you look back on that 2013 draft, there are so many busts, so many players that didn't work out. And you'd be hard-pressed to find maybe 5 that did. But I think that points to the Eagles just being able to pinpoint talent, man.
Yeah, and they stayed put for Derek Barnett, Jalen Reagor, another bust, Nolan Smith, and Quinion. And then I told you they traded back and then up twice to get Goddard and Devontae Smith. So when we look at this year, should they trade up? Should they trade out? I think it's probably likely. I know that people are assuming they're going to trade up. I'm agreeing more with you. I think that they would either pick at 32 or they're going to move back out of the first round. But if they do that, they accumulate even more picks. And now you're
need
talking
volume, though. They have a lot of holes on the roster.
They do. So you're saying move back, accumulate more picks, get a bunch of guys.
And I think most importantly, a lot of the players that we mentioned, they're all, depending on where you have them, they're all hovering around the same spot. 32, 39, 45. They're all right around there. Nick Scourton, who's visiting the Eagles from Texas A&M, the pass rusher, he's a high second-round pick, so they're going to have optionality.
All right. You're convincing me. You're convincing me. I still don't think that it's – I'm still not confident that it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to have this great draft again because I'm playing that law of averages. But I do want to hear from our listeners about what they think is going to happen in this draft. 610-632-0975. We'll continue the conversation as well about Dave Dombrowski and whether or not it's fair that we're being so critical of his offseason moves and not really recognizing some of the good ones that he made. Case in point, Jesus Luzardo. So we'll get back to the text board coming up next.
Fanatic Sports Update.
I'm Austin Jones, and this is your Fanatic Sports Update. The Phillies lost last night to the Atlanta Braves in extra innings as Marcell Ozuna hit a 2-run walk-off home run in the bottom of the 11th to win 4-2 after a long rain delay. Today, the Phillies face the St. Louis Cardinals at 8:15 as Aaron Nola will be on the mound. The 76ers are back tonight to face the Atlanta Hawks. Tip-off is for 7 p.m., and you can listen to that game here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The Flyers return tomorrow afternoon for a day game. They'll play the New York Islanders. Puck drop is for 12:30. You can listen to that game here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The Union are also in action as they face New York City at 7:30. You can listen to the game here on 97.5 The Fanatic. This update's also brought to you by AAA Car Care. Save $84 on select sets of 4 Nokian tires at AAA Car Care Centers. Offer ends April 15th. Details at AAA.com/mycar. I'm Austin Jones on the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Waking up at 11:30 on Friday if you stayed up to watch the Phillies lose to the Braves last night. I knew going in, because I was seeing it on social media, that it was probably going to be a long night because they needed to squeeze this game in, and there was that rain coming that you knew was going to be for a couple hours. But rough night for anybody, even the Phillies and the Braves. Both of them had flights right after the game. So the Phillies are out until God knows when last night when the game finally ends, and then they got to fly to St. Louis. But for everybody who stayed up, Joe Ross didn't make us feel too good. But still, today you wake up, and it's funny, my wife says to me this morning as she's scrolling social media, do the Phillies not have a good team this year? Because she's just reading all of the anger on social media for an 8-4 baseball team, and I'm just as guilty of it. I've been very negative. And that's kind of where our jumping off point today was for the show, because I heard him on the morning show talking about it too with Dave Dombrowski. And are we being a little bit unfair, only focused on all of the negatives with this baseball team, only focused on the moves Dombrowski didn't make, as opposed to looking at, well, he did bring in Jesus Luzardo, who goes 6 innings last night, only gives up 6 hits from 1 earned run, strikes out 6 again. He's got a 1.5 ERA on the season, 3 quality starts. And you may have the best starting rotation in baseball, thanks to Dave Dombrowski. But all we want to focus on, and again, I'm guilty of it too, the bullpen, the outfield. Oh, why didn't they trade Alec Boehm? And I just wonder if we're being a little bit unfair. And we threw that question out to start the show at 610-632-0975. And I think our text board was humming. What do we got on the text board, Austin?
Yeah, so the first thing, we went through the first text. Sorry there. Here we go. So, Steve from Havertown, it's absolutely valid to criticize his lack in regards to Dombrowski, his lack of moves in the bullpen. Joe Ross, Jose Ruiz, etc. are not core bullpen pieces on a winning baseball team, and it will cost us games down the stretch. When we have an owner who is on record saying he was willing to spend money for a championship, I cannot understand why we would be cheap out on our bullpen. Letting Hoffman walk was inexcusable. It seems that trading Soto and Sir Anthony was very short-sighted as well.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to argue that.
I know
that's a good text.
It is a pretty good text, and I saw earlier. I'm trying to find it, where the Toronto Blue Jays posted a highlight of Jeff Hoffman, and
I saw that this morning. Yeah,
they're pretty happy.
Looks like he's doing all right.
Yeah, they're pretty happy there. Look, I understand that the texter's sentiment, and that's kind of how I've been as well. Is how do you just ignore this bullpen? But, and I know it's a big but if Jordan Romano is the guy he was a couple years ago, then it was a great move by Dombrowski, because now then you would have Alvarado, who looks good. You still have Strahm, who looks good.
Kirkring.
You got Kirkring that you're very high on. I am as well. I think he can be that right arm in the bullpen. And you would have Romano. That's not bad when you look at some of the other guys. Yeah, like Ruiz and Ross and Hernandez, who you saw last night, and Tanner Banks. All right, these aren't like great bullpen guys.
But there's a lot of people, Bill, that was not a lot, but there were some that I saw that were optimistic about Joe Ross before the season.
Yeah.
Now you're hearing in a text that he's not a reliever on a World Series team.
Yeah, he hasn't looked good the last 2 outings. But see, this is a conversation Ray and I have had, I think, a little bit off air too. We are so hyper focused on the Phillies, as we should be. Look, we're Philly sports radio. We're Phillies fans. That's what we're going to do. But when you look around Major League Baseball, I mean, how many teams of the 30 Major League Baseball teams have lights-out bullpen arms across the board? Like, we're like, oh, well, what about this guy, this guy, this guy? And we're ignoring Strahm and Alvarado and Kirkring and potentially if Romano turns out to be that guy. And we're just, oh, well, Ruiz isn't a Major League Baseball player. It's how many bullpens throughout Major League Baseball just have lights out across the board?
Right.
And look at the Phillies. They're 8-4. Why are they 8-4? Who have they taken advantage of? The bullpens. They haven't been hitting starting pitching. They've won 8 games because other teams' bullpens stink.
I think a lot of folks are fixating on what the Phillies don't have and not taking the full scope of things. And that's logical, but I think the Phillies are going to be okay. Now, it is on Dombrowski to add a couple more arms or another arm to make sure that you have that room bolstered for, fall baseball.
And that has been one area that I've been critical of Dombrowski. I know others have as well, is his deadline moves over the last couple of seasons have left a lot to be desired. And last season when you had a really good baseball team that got out to like an historic start. But then after the All-Star break, when you started to see maybe some of the weaknesses with this team, specifically out in left field, he goes and makes the trade for Austin Hayes.
And you were not a proponent of that trade.
I hated it. I hated it. And look, unfortunately, I turned out to be right. I know there was a lot of factors at play. Austin Hayes wasn't healthy. What do you have, the kidney issue or the liver issue? Something like that. I always get the kidney and the liver confused. Same thing with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Remember he had the lacerated
kidney.
Was it? See? Yeah. I would have said liver. I know they do different things.
He had a 50-50 shot. That's all right.
What's the kidney do?
What does the kidney do?
Yeah, what's the kidney's purpose?
I think it's supposed to facilitate fluids or something. Listen, I'm not a doctor.
Yo, pretty good, dude.
Am I right?
Andrew DeCecco, not only is he a draft guy, the kidney's primary purpose is to filter waste and excess fluid from the blood.
Well, we should mention that in addition to me knowing that and football and baseball, I did win the bracket, the staff bracket. I think the audience should know that. And you and I went head-to-head, and I came out on top there. So
I'm not talking about it.
I just think they should know. That's all. I just want to make a quick mention.
I'm not going to talk about it. You didn't show up to knockout because you knew you were going to get beat.
No, I had a prior engagement.
Andrew knew that you were going to foul him, probably.
I actually think he had a family event that he had to go to.
Yes.
All right, so let me ask you then, we're talking livers and kidneys now. Can you live with one kidney?
Yes, you can.
Can you live without a liver?
I highly doubt it.
No. See, you're good, dude. You're like Dr. DeCecco over here.
Doctor of football, doctor of
WebMD, man.
You're correct.
Web AD, I guess.
It is not possible to live without a functioning liver. All right, I don't even know how we. Oh, we're talking about. We're talking about
Austin Hayes.
Austin Hayes. So I understand the criticism of Dombrowski at the deadlines, but I can't get past the Luzardo move and act as if he did nothing. And you mentioned it a little bit earlier, too. Max Kepler. Good game last night by Max Kepler. What did he go? 2 for 5, I think, last night. Now, he hasn't shown that he can do it against left-handed pitching yet. But I think when you look at Austin Hayes or Max Kepler in left field, you
would take Max Kepler every day of the week.
Every single day of the week. And Kepler, I think, has shown some potential. Like last year, he actually did have some reverse splits where he hit better against left-handed pitching than right. But we'll see. And I've been critical of Dombrowski. I know people are probably like, what is this guy talking about? He's been the most critical. And I have, and I'm asking myself as much as I'm asking all of you, am I being a little bit unfair because I'm ignoring one of the best moves maybe across all of Major League Baseball in Jesus Luzardo? And I don't think that's an exaggeration. If Luzardo stays healthy, knock on wood, because that's where he's gotten in trouble. But if he stays healthy, you're talking about potentially one of the best pitchers on this staff behind Zach Wheeler. What do we got on the text board still with the Phillies, Austin?
Yeah, so far this season, I know it's only been about 2 weeks, but the fact that the bullpen has been very questionable and we seem to not get the production out of Marsh and Bohm is starting to frustrate me. Should I be worried?
Yeah,
for Marsh, definitely.
Yeah, definitely be worried. And look, Alec Bohm keeps coming up. See, I saw
we can't avoid it. I know he's not producing.
I saw in the YouTube chat the past 2 days, people were like, "Oh, here Bill goes again, bashing Bohm." I can't help it. I'm talking to my YouTube peeps. What do you want me to do? People are texting it in.
What are you going to say? He's doing great. He's out of sight. He's going to rebound. That would be blind faith. Right now, what we're seeing is a trend that's continuing from really after the All-Star break. It's bleeding into the season right now. So is this who he is? Or
no, I don't think it is.
Does he have to work through this? Because he does have a sustained track record of being a successful major league player. But was that a blip on the radar? And is this who he is?
Yeah.
Is he regressing to the norm?
I don't think so. I think Alec Bohm is a lot better than what he's. I mean, he's not a 160 hitter. He's just not.
Well, no, I don't. If he is, they're going to have to make a drastic decision here.
Yeah, well, look, they did try to trade him, but there was just no takers at the asking price. Marsh, I think you're generally should be worried. Like, I don't think Brandon Marsh is the answer. Maybe Justin Crawford comes up soon. I don't know.
That's a lot of pressure to put on a young kid, man.
But, yeah, see, I'm trying to put a little positive spin on the Phils, man. The text board just doesn't want it. But if you got some positivity, come on now. Let's hear from you. 610-632-0975. And as we talk about positivity, our man Ranger Suarez had his first rehab start last night in Class A Clearwater. So I'll give you his stats from last night. Pretty encouraging. And then what that could mean for the Phils if Ranger Suarez is ready to come back up. We'll talk about it coming up next.
Tyrone Johnson.
It's notable, not
this for? This the Checo's theme song? Checo's gonna rip his shirt off in a second.
Who was that? Danger?
That's Hulkamania right there, running
okay.
wild.
Sound
Hulk
like
Hogan and Rick Danger, yeah.
Ted Poey and Danger.
I guess Mikey Miss wants to go from the top rope some days.
Oh wait, that was one of his songs.
Yeah,
You
this
said,
is
you said
his
that was
bed.
that was Danger?
Yeah, and Hulk Hogan. Yeah.
Look at that, man. Look at that, man. I'm firing all cylinders today.
I'm going to tell you something. You may be the only person in America that hears that song and thinks Danger before Hulkamania.
Yeah, well, I like 80s rock.
Right? Austin, when you hear that song, do you think Hulk Hogan or do you go Danger?
I'm going Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, I think everyone in the world's going Hulk.
Yeah, I think like 98% of the people are going to do that, except the most are.
Andrew, is that Danger?
Yeah.
I'm doing the Hulkamania. Although he's been in the news lately, some negative stuff going on with him.
Oh, yeah, brother.
That was a pretty good one, Austin. All right. We start, brother. So we started the show. We're talking about Dombrowski, and maybe some good news coming because Ranger Suarez had his rehab start last night at Class A Clearwater. Listen to this stat line, Andrew. Goes 3 innings, only gives up 1 hit, 0 earned run, 0 walks. He strikes out 4, but even more impressively, he throws 33 pitches, 24 of them are strikes, and his four-seamer averaged 92.2 miles per hour. Last season, according to Todd Selecki, it averaged 91.8. So velocity's up. He's throwing strikes. He's striking people out. I know it's a rehab assignment, but pretty damn good sign for Ranger in the back.
Yeah, absolutely. That's you have to be optimistic about that. Help is on the way, and they have the luxury. Really, they have eight guys who could start. So Taijuan Walker presumably would be the middle relief guy.
Yeah. So what do we do now?
But he's pitching well.
So Suarez comes back. Now your starting rotation, you got this is why I think maybe we're being unfair to Dombrowski.
I mean, it's a good problem to have. Go through the names in your head.
Listen to the 5 starters that would probably be your starters this season, assuming they all stay healthy. You got Zach Wheeler, stud. Christopher Sanchez, all-star last year. Got to see him do it on the road, but he's more than capable.
Noah.
Aaron Nola, who I think the hate towards Aaron Nola is so overblown, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then you got Jesus Luzardo, who could be your second best pitcher on this rotation. And then you add Ranger Suarez, who, if he's healthy and he's in a contract year, that's got top 1 or 2 rotations in all of baseball.
Right. I mean, you and I did a show together, Bill, on July 5th last year. And at that time, there was some chatter that Ranger could have been a Cy Young candidate. So
he was until he got hurt.
Candidate. Yeah.
Until he got hurt. And look, maybe the fact that Ranger, it's not ideal that he's having the back injury, but in some respects, maybe it's a good thing that he's not going to pitch as many innings to start the season, and now he'll be there towards the end. But, let's take a look. Let's go one step ahead. Let's assume, and I know we're making a lot of assumptions, but let's assume they get into the postseason. You don't need those 5 starters. So you're talking about, hey, Taijuan Walker goes to the bullpen now, which you're probably right.
Would you rather have him or Ranger, though, in the bullpen?
Well, you talking about postseason or
yes,
now?
Postseason.
Yeah, so let's go to the postseason.
Okay.
There's also a chance, we didn't even mention him, that Andrew Painter may be here before October.
I assume that he's going to be.
So now you have Wheeler, Luzardo, Sanchez, Suarez, Nola, and Painter.
That's an embarrassment of riches.
And ideally, what do you need? 3 quality starters in the postseason? Wheeler's going to stay in the starting rotation. Luzardo's going to stay in the starting rotation. And I would assume Sanchez and Nola, let's say those 4. Yeah, I guess Suarez is in the pen, and Andrew Painter most likely goes to the pen in the postseason. So all of these concerns that we have about the bullpen, although warranted, not only you have the trade deadline coming up, but you got Ranger Suarez potentially and Andrew Painter that can get moved there in October. And now I think a lot of the concerns we have are wiped away.
That's essentially 2 major trades right there without actually being trades. Big additions to the Phillies that are going to be coming down the pike. So, yes, I think you have to take all of that into consideration when you're assessing Dave Dombrowski, to be fair.
That's why I'm saying I'm trying to be fair. Now,
I feel like I'm swaying you in multiple ways.
You are.
This show.
You are. This has been good conversation. But like Dawood, my man Dawood, who he delivered me some more of my yellow notepads the last time we had a remote. But he says it's not unfair to be critical of Dombrowski because I'm focused on the bottom of the order. So I get it. and we want the perfect team. I'm guilty of it too. I look at this team and I want perfection because I want to see them get over the top. And the lineup leaves a lot to be desired at the bottom. The bullpen right now does leave a lot. But the reason I'm saying, are we being unfair, is we're failing to recognize how dominant this starting rotation can be. And I still think when you have a rotation like this, and this is the old cliche in baseball, like when you have a good starting rotation, you're going to win a lot of games.
Yeah.
And it gives you a chance come October.
It allows you to kind of make up or mask some of the other deficiencies, and they do have sore spots in the lineup right now. Bohm, Marsh. You seem to think that Bohm's going to be able to kind of shake loose and get back to the player that he was. Marsh, I don't have any confidence in, to be honest with you. But they have the pitching to make up for it, and if you're able to get something out of Casty in that cleanup spot, assuming they leave him there, you might have something. I think that it's worth exploring.
Yeah, look, we're so focused on the negatives. Like, and Alec Bohm, I'm not a huge fan of his. I mean, I think that's clear. If you listen to the show, I'm not a huge fan. I don't like his attitude.
I don't like the antics at all.
But they tried to trade him, and they couldn't. So, for better or worse, you're stuck with him this season. I don't think that Alec Bohm gets traded this season. I think you're stuck with him. So you need to get Alec Bohm going. Rob Thompson is going to have to get Alec Bohm going. Kevin Long's going to have to get him going because you're going to need Alec Bohm to get to the promised land this year. I just don't see a drastic change coming there. But I think he does have the capability of doing it. I agree with you. Brandon Marsh doesn't. But let's look at some of the positives in addition to that starting rotation. Kyle Schwarber is an MVP candidate right now.
He's playing lights out.
Insane. And it's not even June. Trey Turner is showing some signs that maybe he's the guy you paid all that money for. Bryce is going to be Bryce. Castellanos, you know what you're going to get from Casty. He's going to be hot. He's going to be cold. He's going to be hot. He's going to be cold. But he's going to show up sometimes.
Yeah, the hope is that he's hot when the Phillies need him the most.
And we are so focused on Alec Bohm and Brandon Marsh that the other member of the now deceased daycare. Ooh, that's not a nice. I don't like saying that. That's not. What do I say?
I don't know.
The day they've graduated. We'll use that. Not deceased. My God. Bryson Stott. Like, no one, I don't think, is talking enough about how good Bryson Stott is actually playing right now. The guy's hitting .282. He was 1 for 3 last night, and he walked twice. Bryson Stott, when we look at the quote-unquote daycare, is not having a bad year like Marsh and Alec Bohm. So there are a lot of positives to like about this lineup, about this starting rotation, and then what can happen down the road. And I again, if you're listening, you're thinking, is that Bill? Because he's been so negative.
Well,
I'm
you're
trying to
talking to me
convince
here,
myself.
man. Yeah, look.
And Andrew's convincing me.
Yeah, we're going through the lineups. I think there's a lot to be optimistic about with the Phillies. There's going to be sore spots, but if you look around Major League Baseball, Bill, you'd be hard-pressed to find a team that doesn't have shortcomings. This is a really good baseball team, and they're going to get stronger as they advance in the season. They have help on the way, Ranger Suarez and Andrew Painter.
Yes, you make a lot of good points. And we're going to continue the conversation about the Phillies. We will get back to the NFL draft and the Philadelphia Eagles. Some other fun football topics today as well that we got to talk about. The Summer Olympics in 2028. This news kind of got brushed under the rug coming out of the owners' meeting with all the tush-push talk, but some interesting developments there. But coming up next, one of my favorite segments of the day, we got the news at noon, but we also have another chance for you to win $1,000 in our Fanatics signing bonus giveaway. So keep it right here because that keyword's coming up next.
Fanatic Sports Update.
I'm Austin Jones, and this is your Fanatic Sports Update. The Phillies lost last night in extra innings to the Atlanta Braves as Marcell Ozuna hit a 2-1 walk-off home run in the bottom of the 11th inning to win 4-2 after a long rain delay. Today, the Phillies play the Cardinals at 8:15 as Aaron Nola will be on the mound. The 76ers are back tonight as well. They will face the Atlanta Hawks. Tip-off is for 7 p.m. You can listen to that game here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The Flyers are off, but they'll be back tomorrow afternoon for a day game against the New York Islanders. Puck drop is for 12:30. You can listen to that game here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The Union will be back Saturday as well as they'll face New York City at 7:30. You can listen to that game where? On 97.5 The Fanatic. This update's also brought to you by Wendy's $5 Biggie Bag. The Wendy's $5 Biggie Bag is the best deal in fast food for a lot of reasons, some of which include a JBC, 4-piece nugs, junior fries, and a small soft drink. For the best deal of all time, gotta be Wendy's. U.S. price and participation may vary. I'm Austin Jones on the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Coming up on the 12 o'clock hour. I hope everyone's enjoying their lunch break right now. This is the Fanatic. You got no Mikey Miss today, no Ray Dunn today. So I'm holding down the fort, but I got my guy Andrew DeCecco to my left, and I got Austin Jones behind the glass. So we're having some fun today. We're trying to be positive, man. I was trying to bring some more of a positive view of the Philadelphia Phillies because I think I've been a little bit too hard on Dombrowski and a little bit too negative with a team that won their first 3 series. I know they dropped in extra innings last night to the Braves in similar fashion where the bullpen gives up that go-ahead run, the walk-off home run. They had the lead going into the bottom of the 11th, and then they give up the double to start and then the 2-run home run to lose the game in 11 thanks to Joe Ross. But there's a lot of positives to take away from an 8-4 start when you got the best rotation in baseball. There's a lot of guys on the team who are performing well. I know that Marsh and Bohm are getting a lot of heat, but Bryson Stott looks good. Kyle Schwarber's on a different planet right now. Bryce Harper's going to be Bryce Harper. So there's things to be excited about. And we did throw out the question, are we being a little bit too hard on Dave Dombrowski and too negative? And apparently not, because everybody on the text board is bringing the negativity today. I was trying. It's a Friday. We're gearing up for a nice weekend. I'm going to be at Ladder 15 tomorrow at 6:30 with Brandon Graham for Crooked Tea. Come out and say hello. It's Ladder Day at Ladder 15, and you can meet Brandon Graham. Say hello to me. Tell me I'm an idiot if you want. So should be a good weekend, but no positivity on the text board, Austin.
No, I think we got a lot of cranky people from staying up last night and seeing how the game ended probably put a little bit more negativity on their Friday.
Well, there's good news because coming up in about 30 seconds, I'm going to give you a chance to win $1,000. But before I do, let me just tell you, you're listening to WPEN and WPEN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. Let's try to cheer somebody up with some cash, Austin Jones.
The Fanatic signing bonus.
Here we go. It's time again for the Fanatic signing bonus. Your chance to win $1,000. Are you ready? The contest keyword is wage. W-A-G-E. You now have 25 minutes until after the hour to enter it on the Fanatic mobile app or at 975thefanatic.com. You can also text it to the special contest short code 45911. Keyword wage. One random entry is going to win $1,000 in this company-wide contest. Each winner gets a call from Beasley, so be sure to answer your phone. Contest rules at 975thefanatic.com. The Fanatic signing bonus is sponsored by Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia, voted best casino in PA by Casino Player Magazine. You get 5 chances to win every single weekday, 8 a.m., 10 a.m., this one here at 12 noon. You'll have 2 more chances today at 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. But get going. I want a winner from our show. Contest keyword, wage. That's it? Oh, there's no outro?
Yeah,
I thought there was another song coming at the end. Like, that's the Fanatic signing.
Or some danger.
All right, well, we got another fun thing going now. We got the news at noon.
There's a whole lot going on in this world. It's time to catch up. Here's the news at noon. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
All right.
What do we got, man?
Final day to make Ray proud of me for his segment here. Appreciate you, Ray. So, as we all know, we all love the NBA on TV crew. Last night was their final regular season show for the games that were taking place last night. And Charles Barkley likes to put out some bets out there. And he gave his parlay last night. And while last night was the first time his parlay hit all season.
The last regular season game of
Hammer, let me see that hammer. Let me see that hammer.
NBA on TNT era.
That hammer. Let me see that hammer. I hit my parlay.
Yes, you did.
Wow.
We were going to bring that up at the end of the segment. And there was no way. There you go.
I'd stop the streak, y'all.
He was 0-21. Tonight, he connects with Ant-Man, Judge, Aaron Jackson Jr., and Julius Randle.
Anything is possible.
It's everybody laughing is the best part of that. So on the last show, he finally hits his parlay.
Yes, he had Anthony Edwards over 25 points, John Morant over 25, Jaren Jackson over 20, and Julius Randle over 15.
Damn. And I think I saw, are they doing some sort of like documentary or something about that show before it switches over? I thought I saw something on there.
Yeah, I saw something like that. I believe over the summer they were kind of, I guess they're doing like a Last Dance type of documentary, which, I mean, they've been on TV for 20-something years now. Like, I can only imagine what the documentary would be.
Yeah, that's a great show, man. That's a great show.
Very entertaining.
Always is. Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't
very
necessarily, like we always laugh, Mike and I, like, doesn't necessarily provide you with the best basketball analysis.
Not a lot of content there, but
but it's entertaining nonetheless.
Very.
All right, what else you got, man?
Alrighty, so next we're going to Eagles wide receiver A.J. Brown, who spoke to some University of Miami students and gave them some advice as they prepare for the real world. I had something similar. Charles Barkley he came down to Rowan University before I had graduated, and they always like to try to guide you guys the right way. Give a listen.
Think like, when I get this, I'm gonna be satisfied. When I get this, I'm gonna be set. But that's not the case. Because when you do get that, will you be satisfied? Will you be fulfilled? And I can guarantee you, if you're chasing money, if you all are chasing money in this room, I would tell you all to stop. Chase your purpose. Chase a better version of yourself. Because I say this, if you get that money, you get what you want. Only thing that comes out is your bigger flaws. The real you shows up. I see it time and time again in NFL, and I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, but I see it so many times. Your vices show up loud and bright when you have that money. Because you're so fulfilling, you're trying so hard to get that money. But if you chase your purpose, you chase a better version of you, the money will chase you, guys. The opportunities will chase you. No, you won't have to beg for an opportunity. The opportunity will be begging to have you.
Yeah, he sounds like such a diva, doesn't he, man?
That's great stuff from AJ.
Great stuff from AJ Brown. But, dude, like, great stuff. And don't chase money, chase your purpose, all that. But and I don't know if you and I even ever had this conversation. The overblown narrative about A.J. Brown being a diva.
Yeah, it's garbage. That's not true at all.
Ridiculous, man.
This guy is a leader, and you hear it there. He has emotional intelligence, and I think he's one of the more misunderstood athletes in this city. And it's kind of confusing to me to see that term kind of thrown around when you're talking about A.J. Brown. It's not true.
No, it's not. When he talks about chasing your purpose, it reminds me, too, what was it? 48 hours after the Super Bowl, he does the Instagram post that he's not as happy as he thought. He wants to get back to work.
Driven to win.
The Super Bowl wasn't enough. They like to process more.
Wait, where was that? Where was he talking? You said he was talking to kids?
Yeah, University of Miami.
Yeah, good for A.J. Brown. I think I just saw him, too, because FIFA's at Lincoln Financial, right? So I think he was there doing some sort of event. I saw something on social media with him there at the link. But what else you got? Good stuff, Austin.
So, as we all know, the tush push has been a topic of debate this offseason. Hall of Famer and former New York Giant Michael Strahan was on the 7 p.m. Brooklyn podcast with Carmelo Anthony, and he told him how he would defend the tush push if he were in the NFL.
Do I like the Eagles? Hell no. My man. But the tush push, I'm like, if everybody could do it as effectively, they wouldn't be trying to ban it. That's a fact. Prime Mike, are you saying, we should try this? Yeah, because I'm like, we can't stop it. Y'all got to figure out a way that we can do it. How would y'all stop that? Are you jumping over the line? The way I would try to stop it would probably get a fine. Uh-oh. I'm going to tell one of them dudes, hey, when they hike it, just put your helmet right on that quarterback's head. I don't care what you got to do. Just send a message. I was watching that Redeem team. Yeah. Kobe was like, I'm going to run through Powell's chest. And he sent a message. If you get a fine, cool, we'll take care of that for you. But if we're going to send a message, you're going to do that tush push, this might come back at you.
He starts out okay with Strahan when he's talking about how, if everybody could do it, they wouldn't be trying to get it banned. I agree. So basically he's saying that to target the quarterback's head. What is he saying here?
Tone deaf comment there from Strahan.
Go after the quarterback's head? Well, first of all, it's not as if other teams haven't tried that. We've heard other teams say, you're going to do that play.
Frankie Louvu.
We're going to hit you. It's a little bit easier said than done when you're getting when our offensive line is getting lower than yours.
Yeah, the leverage. I don't know. That's distasteful.
Yeah, so target the QB's head. That's great stuff from Strahan right there.
Yeah, real class act there.
Oh, he's a Giant, so do you expect him to be any different?
You just reminded me of something, too, that I'm going to talk about coming up next. So you talk about the Giants. So there was an interesting tweet that was put out by one of the top prospects going into this NFL draft that a lot of people want here in Philadelphia, and it's just not going to happen. And this tweet got me a little upset. As soon as I saw it this morning, I said to Andrew, oh, man, look at this. We'll talk about it coming up next.
ESPN's Adam Schefter.
Outside of maybe the
So right before the break, great job by Austin Jones with the News at Noon, making Ray Dunn proud. But he finished the News at Noon with a little soundbite from Michael Strahan, which is ridiculous. And then you said, oh, well, he's just a Giant. And I got a little upset today. I opened up my Twitter right before the show. And Abdul Carter, who Penn State grad. Did he graduate from Penn State?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or is he leaving early?
I think he might be leaving early.
Penn State guy that a lot of people in the city would love to be here. I mean, why not? It's a position of need for the Eagles at the edge rusher, and the guy's going to be an absolute stud.
But unrealistic.
Unrealistic. He's in the top of the draft. You're not trading up to get him. But he posted a picture on his Twitter right before the show with no caption, no words, just a picture of Lawrence Taylor in a New York Giants uniform.
You look borderline devastated.
Well, I knew this was this was a possibility, right? That he would go to the Giants because they got the 3rd overall pick. But is this going to happen? Are the Giants going to get Abdul Carter? I mean, they're still not going to have a quarterback, so that's fine.
You look like you just learned that Santa Claus wasn't real.
Yo, there's kids that listen to this show. I still believe.
The Tooth Fairy.
So, let's look at the top of that draft board real quick. So you got 1st overall. It's got to be Cam Ward. Do you think that's a definite?
Yes, I think so.
Because they need it. Are they giving up on? I'm drawing a blank on his name now.
Will Levis.
Yeah, they're going to give up on Mr. Mayonnaise.
Yeah, I don't think he's got it, man.
So,
I think eventually you have to move on and cut the cord.
So you got Will Levis probably out in Tennessee. You go with Cam Ward, which I think is expected. And then
there's
you got
a lot of buzz there, and there really has been for the past month or so.
Now, with the 2nd overall pick, the Cleveland Browns, see, I thought there was a chance that they would take Abdul Carter, and you pair him with Myles Garrett and lights out defensive line.
That's what I was thinking, too. That's why I'm not so sure that he makes it to 3.
But if the Browns don't take Abdul Carter, they probably go with Travis Hunter?
Yeah, probably.
You don't think they go quarterback? They reach for a quarterback there?
I don't think. Yeah, I think they would go Travis Hunter. Best player available. Can play corner, can play wide receiver. It would make a lot of sense. They have a lot of needs.
So then that puts the Giants on the clock at 3. Abdul Carter would be on the board. And I guess they could also reach for a quarterback. But you don't.
Like
you're not
Shedeur?
Yeah, you're not a huge. Are you a Shedeur Sanders guy? You think he's going to
be? I like him, but that would be way too rich in my opinion. I actually think that Abdul Carter could go 2 to the Browns.
I hope so.
I mean, would it make you feel any better if Travis Hunter went to the Giants?
I guess not. Look, it doesn't matter. I mean, if we're being honest, does it matter who the Giants get? They're in quarterback purgatory again. So who are they hoping is going to be? Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston is going to win that job?
Flip a coin.
Like, see, this is the thing, and I talked about this yesterday. Someone texted in yesterday that they would give Howie Roseman a lifetime contract, and I said I would agree. And one of the things that I think makes Howie Roseman so effective is that he knows that he has job security. So he doesn't just focus on, I have to win this year. Yes, they're always trying to win this year, but he also makes moves for 2, 3, 4 years down the road. Part of the reason why they did shed some salary cap this year, because they know what's coming down the pike when you got to pay Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith and all these other players. A guy like Joe Shane doesn't have that luxury. He needs to win this year. So he needs to make moves to win games this year, and that's a terrible way to approach things in the NFL.
Yeah, I think another thing that makes Howie Roseman so great is that he's not afraid to take risks. And he also feels comfortable in his role, to your point, Bill, that he can take those risks. But not every GM has that luxury. So sometimes you have to play it safe. But when you're picking at that part of the draft, I mean, it's kind of tailor-made for those teams. I mean, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter. The one problem that teams could find themselves in is reaching for a quarterback.
Which it happens every year.
Like, it wouldn't surprise me if the Giants went Shedeur at 3.
See, this is the thing. When you're picking at the bottom of the draft, though, like the Eagles are, it's a little frustrating that this isn't a better quarterback draft class.
Right.
Because the best thing is when you get all these teams in front of you that reach for a quarterback and then it pushes a non-QB player down the board to you, there's really not – I mean, outside of Cam Ward, how many first-round talents out there do you think there are at the quarterback position?
Shedeur. I think Shedeur's a
You think Shedeur goes in round 1? Does Dart go?
Jackson Dart's a stretch. He's kind of the wild card. I could see a team trying to trade back into the first round and try to grab him at the back end of the first round.
And when you say that, any chance he would fall to like 32 and the Eagles say, hey, you want your quarterback? Here you go. Come up and get him.
I do think so. And that's sort of fueled my theory that the Eagles would be more likely to trade out of that pick at 32 and accumulate more picks and still be able to get players that fit with what they need at, anywhere in the 30s.
All right, well, let's talk about that because you gave me 3 names earlier. I want to get some more names from you. So you gave me 3 names earlier that could be there for the Eagles at 32 if they decided to stay put. Walter Nolan at defensive tackle, Mason Taylor at tight end, and then local product. Say it for me
I
again.
got you. Donovan Ezaraku.
I knew it. I was going to say Ezaraku, who went to Williamstown High School at the edge rusher position. Now, what you don't have listed in here is the position of need. I just heard you doing a video for Brandon for our social media. He asked you for your 3 positions of need. You said D tackle, tight end, and you didn't say edge rusher. You said safety.
I did say safety.
So we talked about it a little bit earlier. Safety in the first round you think's unlikely, but you think there's guys that may be there at 64 or even close enough where they could move up in the second round.
I do.
Who's your top-rated safety, though? Number 1 on the board.
Malachi Starks from Georgia. 6'1", 197, can do it all, is a player who fits any defensive scheme. I like that he's a very vocal back-end communicator, and he has a ton of range. Good ball skills. He's the total package of what you're looking for.
Yeah, but he didn't go to the right school for the Eagles. He went to Georgia.
Yeah.
They don't like Georgia defensive players, man. Could you imagine if they get another one? That would be incredible if they got another Georgia Bulldog on the defense.
Crazier things have happened, Bill, and sometimes safeties tend to slide because there's another player, Nick Emenwari from South Carolina. He's built like Cam Chancellor, 6'3", 220, ran a 4'3", 43-inch vertical, but he's more of a box safety. But there are some teams that may have him rated slightly above Starks. So there is a world in which, if it works in the Eagles' favor, Starks should be available at 32.
So now, you and I talked earlier, best player available or need, and I was trying to get you to come more across to the need side, and you were close, saying you wouldn't go quarterback, you wouldn't go wide receiver, you wouldn't go running back. So best player available, but not at those 3 positions. What if the best player available at 32 is an offensive lineman?
You take him.
Right? Because I could still see them doing that, right? Howie Roseman, we know he loves to build along the trenches. We keep waiting for when they're going to draft Lane Johnson's replacement. When are they going to draft Lane Johnson's replacement? I know he wants to play for 3 more years, he said?
Yeah, he signed through 2027, but I feel like that's a year-to-year thing. When you reach an age of 35, I feel like you have a lot of maintenance that needs to be required.
Bill, you just made Ray, if he's listening, pull his hair out because he does not want an offensive lineman.
Well,
but here, I can give you a few if you want.
Well, before we do, let's talk about why they may go O-line, though. Because I think that I think you've talked about this before. One of the underrated losses this season wasn't even Mekhi Becton. Everyone knew, he was a starter. Fred Johnson was an underrated loss.
He was. And going into the season, I'll be honest, I had a lot of questions. I thought the Eagles were really lean in their offensive line depth, uncharacteristically. And Fred Johnson starts 6 games. Yeah, that Tampa Bay game was a little shaky, but I thought he really settled in the more snaps that he got, and he was that swing tackle, so he served a pivotal role on game day. And now you're looking at, is it going to be Kendall Lamb, the veteran offensive lineman that the Eagles signed for the Dolphins, who's flirted with retirement? Is it going to be Matt? Certainly not going to be Matt Pryor. Matt Pryor is going to have to fight.
He's had his opportunity here before.
He didn't pass.
What about
Staley
Kenyon Green?
University.
Do you like him?
As a guard.
As a guard, you like him.
And he has to prove it. He's a reclamation project.
So I'm going to tell everybody, because I do think there's a lot of people out there probably like Ray, where if they go offensive line in the first round are going to be thinking that's, what a terrible pick. But this again brings me back to the point I made to start the segment. That's the beautiful part about Howie Roseman having job security, is he's not only going to pick a player that I need this year. He knows we got to build along this offensive line, and you need depth along the offensive line. The Eagles, they've been lucky with their health. But last year, like you just said, Fred Johnson had to play some games last year. Tyler Steen had to come in and play some games last year. And now you don't have Mekhi Becton. You don't have Fred Johnson. So,
yeah, Steen was your guy that was coming off the bench. Now, in this scenario, Steen would be your starter. And now you're looking at Kenyon Green, Trevor Keegan, who, of course, was drafted in the 5th round out of Michigan last year. There's a lot of unknown variables. And I think if you have a chance to add a player that has that kind of talent, like a Josh Connerly perhaps from Oregon. That's kind of where he's slotted. Josh Simmons from Ohio State, Ariante Ursary from Minnesota. Those are the type of tackles that you're looking for in that area that could be realistic possibilities.
Yeah, boring, not necessarily the sexiest pick to go offensive line, but certainly would be smart to do it. And I could definitely see the Philadelphia Eagles doing that. But coming up, I want to keep it up with the football. But I mentioned this a little bit earlier. All the news coming out of the owners' meetings was about the tush push and the rule changes. And there was something that kind of got brushed under the rug. And it's that the NFL, the players, are kind of at odds with the owners right now about what to do in the Summer Olympics of 2028. And you may be thinking, well, that's so long away. What do we care? They got to make a decision in like the next 60 days about whether or not they're going to allow the NFL players to play in the Summer Olympics of 2028 in flag football. So I want to talk about that. I want to get Andrew and Austin's opinion and your opinions out there as well, whether or not you want NFL players in the Summer Olympics of 2028. We'll talk about it on the other side.
Fanatic Sports Update.
I'm Austin Jones, and this is your Fanatic Sports Update. This update is brought to you by Groundworks, your expert for basement waterproofing and foundation repair since 1997. Book your free inspection at groundworks.com. The Phillies lost last night in extra innings due to a 2-run home run by Marcell Ozuna after a long rain delay. Today, the Phillies are in St. Louis to face the Cardinals. First pitch is for 8:15, and you can see Aaron Nola on the mound. The 76ers are back in action tonight to face the Hawks. Tip-off is for 7 p.m. You can listen to that game right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The Flyers are off, but they'll be back tomorrow for a day game. They'll play the New York Islanders. Puck drop is for 12:30. You can listen to the game where? On 97.5 The Fanatic. The Union are back as well as they'll face New York City Saturday night at 7:30. You can listen to that game here on 97.5 The Fanatic. This update is brought to you by Electrical Workers 269 and the Electrical Training Alliance. IBE 269 proudly energizing their community for over 100 years. Visit their website at IBE269.com. I'm Austin Jones on the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
You buy Service First HVAC, offering 0% financing for 48 months, rebates and tax credits up to $4,300 when purchasing a heating and cooling system. Learn more at servicefirsthvac.com. And I just got some great news for everybody out there. If you heard, tomorrow night at 6:30 to 8:30 at Ladder 15, I'm going to be there guest bartending with Brandon Graham. It's going to be a great event. Well, guess what? We now got a prize to give away because there's going to be a VIP meet and greet with Brandon Graham and me at the Crooked T Celebrity Bartending event at Ladder 15 on Sansom Street. This event is open to the public from 6:30 to 8:30 and help celebrate Brandon's awesome career in Philly, brought to you by Crooked T. But if you want to get the VIP ticket for you and a guest, you can get it between now and the end of the show. So if you want to call in, you can weigh in on the topics we're talking about, and I will hit you with a Brandon Graham trivia question that if you get right, you will win the tickets for the VIP meet and greet tomorrow night at Ladder 15. So a reminder, there's a couple topics on the board today. We're talking about the Philadelphia Phillies, and even though they're 8-4, a lot of people have been negative toward Dave Dombrowski, me included. But are we being a little bit too negative and not looking at some of the positives? Is it fair that we're only focused on the negatives of the offseason moves he didn't make instead of the ones that he did? Case in point, Jesus Luzardo. We're also talking about the NFL draft and Howie Roseman. And are we being naive to just assume he's going to have another great draft, considering he's had 4 in a row, but they're picking in the bottom of all these rounds? I think it's unlikely he hits for the 5th straight season. That's almost unheard of. Andrew DeCecco, who's with me today because Mikey misses at Augusta, says, no, he's going to do it. He's going to keep doing it. What makes me think he won't? So if you want to weigh in on those conversations, 610-632-0975. I'll hit you with a BG trivia question, and you and a guest may be the VIP meet and greet with Brandon Graham and me tomorrow night at the Crooked T Celebrity Bartending event, Ladder 15 on Sansom Street between 6:30 and 8:30. So I was just talking, Andrew, right before the break, I talked about how at the owners' meetings, what got all of the publicity was this tush-push thing, right? Rightfully so. I mean, it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. And there were talks about the rule changes and different things. But one of the things that kind of got brushed under the rug, and I was reading an article the other day about this, flag football's coming to the Olympics in the summer of 2028. The NFL players want to play in the Olympics. The NFL, meaning the league, wants them to be able to play in the Olympics. It'll help grow the game, they're saying. It'll help grow the product. But the NFL owners do not want their players playing in this. And if you look at every single player's contract, there is language in the contract that they're not allowed to play football or engage in any activities related to football without prior written consent of the club. So we're kind of headed for a battle here. And the reason it's relevant now is I was reading that the NFL wants a decision in the next 60 days. So you're going to have the league and the players saying, let us play, let us play. And you got the owners saying, no, we don't want you to play. Like, think about this. You're an NFL owner. You just gave Jalen Hurts $200 million, right? And he goes and plays in the Olympics, and God forbid he gets hurt doing flag football. So this is going to be an interesting battle that they got to figure out over the next few weeks if they want a decision in the next 60 days.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what our listeners think, and you can hit us up either by call or text 610-632-0975. Would you have any interest in watching the NFL players play in flag football in the Olympics?
They already play flag football at the Pro Bowl, so I'm siding with the owners here. There's no way, if I'm an owner, that I would want any of my any of my players playing in a game in which you can get hurt. You have obligations to that franchise to make sure that you're available. Yeah, I can't go there, man. I can't get there.
Dude, it's like I love watching the NBA players in the Olympics. I love watching the NHL players when they're in the Olympics. Like, I think that's one of my favorite things to watch. But they're playing basketball. And they're playing hockey.
They're not playing two-hand touch or flag football here.
Correct.
And risking health.
Like, I am with the owners in this situation. Like, I know it would be pretty cool If you're an NFL player, like you get a gold medal. But you're not getting a gold medal playing your sport. You're playing flag football. Like it would be like the NBA players playing in a 3-on-3 tournament.
Yes,
or like
yeah.
the hockey players going and doing like a shootout where you get a gold medal. Like this is not your sport. I think I would prefer stay in your lane. You're not flag football players. Don't play in the Olympics. I'm with the owners on this one.
I would say get the allure of playing in the Olympics, but again, it's flag football. What are you really accomplishing by doing that other than putting your health and your franchise in jeopardy?
Yeah, I'm really curious where fans are on this with the NFL being king and everybody loving, football players and all that. It's just I don't need to see them in the Olympics. So I'm looking at some people on our YouTube chat. Neil says, I don't know, flag football has about as much contact as basketball. Yeah, but look, what you're worried about isn't the contact with flag football. What you're worried about are the ACLs.
Yeah.
Right? Like, God forbid one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL or top receivers in the NFL goes and plays in a flag football in the Olympics and blows out an ACL.
Planting, pivoting, all those things.
And here's the other issue with it. The Summer Olympics in 2028 are set to be from July 14th through July 30th. So if you're going to participate, you're probably going to miss summer training camp. Even if you stay healthy, you're probably going to miss summer training camp. And I also don't think it's going to be something where you just show up July 14th and play in the Olympics. There's probably going to also be some off-season practices.
And they're equivalent to a training camp. And now you're talking about it affecting the preparation for the NFL season. You're shortchanging your practice time for training camp, which is crucial to that regular season success and really building that continuity as a team. I'm out on that.
Yeah, I'm looking at an article from Mike Florio on ProFootballTalk.com. He says that at the owners' meetings in Florida, there was a sense of a push and pull. The league sees an opportunity to market the brand on a global scale, but the owners see this as a chance to have key players suffer injuries. But even if they don't, they're going to miss time in preparation for the 2028 season.
Yeah, that's a joke, man. There's no way. I'm totally out on that.
But this is going to be interesting because who wins? Like this argument, who wins? Do the owners or does the NFL? I think the owners are eventually going to win, but it sounds like the NFLPA, who represents the players, wants to play.
Yeah, it's a game of tug-of-war. It'll be a game of tug-of-war because, look, the players, I imagine, are going to lobby. They have an opportunity to play in the Olympics. But the owners are going to say, you have an obligation to be available and healthy for this franchise. We signed you to very lucrative deals, some of the marquee players. So, I mean, they got to make sure they're available for that.
Some people are already being scarred. This was Brian from California. We do not need another Embiid situation. I agree with the owners, as selfish as that sounds.
Yeah, as soon as I saw this, that's what I thought people
thought of Embiid, yeah.
People were going to think of Joel Embiid. And I was okay with it. Now, with hindsight being 2020 and the fact that Joel wasn't healthy, you look back and say, well, he shouldn't have played. But at the time, leading into the Summer Olympics, I wanted Joel to play, and me being naive thought maybe it'll be good for him to be around all these guys. Yeah, right. That didn't really work out. Well, look, we'll continue that conversation. We want to hear from you. You can weigh in on any of our three topics today about the Phillies. Are we being a little bit too negative when it comes to Dave Dombrowski? When it comes to the NFL draft, what are you expecting Howie Roseman to do? And do you think it's fair to say, hey, what, he's going to hit again in the NFL draft? And now this Summer Olympics thing. Do you want to see your NFL players in the Summer Olympics in 2028? 610-632-0975. And if you weigh in, I'm going to hit you with a Brandon Graham trivia question. If you get it right, you're going to join me and Brandon Graham at a VIP meet and greet tomorrow night at Ladder 15 at 6:30. 610-632-0975. All of this coming up next.
Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Vitale.
12:42 here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Welcome back in. So a lot on the table today. We're talking Phillies. We're talking NFL draft. We're even talking Summer Olympics in 2028 because the owners, the NFL, and the players are all headed for a little tug of war, as you said, because the players want to play. The NFL wants them to play. But the owners don't want him to play because of risk of injury. And even though the Olympics are a few years away, the decision needs to be made within like the next 60 days. So he threw out the question, would you want the NFL players to play in the Summer Olympics? I said I wouldn't. Andrew said he wouldn't. But I had somebody in the YouTube chat, Eric Schwabe, say, Bill, if you're taking the owner's side, then you can't support NBA or NHL players going to the Olympics. And the reason that I completely disagree, they're
playing their respective sports.
Correct. The NBA players are playing basketball. The NHL players are playing ice hockey. Going to the Olympics to play flag football is not real football. It's not the same sport that you are playing. It is a different sport. Yes, technically you use a football. There's different rules. You're not wearing pads. Everything is different about it. And I compared it to NBA players going to the 3-on-3 tournament in the Olympics. It's different. That's why I would not get behind it. It does nothing for me to see NFL players play flag football. It's the main reason why I don't even watch the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, what are they going to run the West Coast offense flag football style? I mean, like, what are you accomplishing by doing that other than putting your body in jeopardy?
So a lot of people are weighing in on this on the text board, and then we got people weighing in on is the criticism of Dave Dombrowski's fair. And I think we got Dr. Mad Elf on the line, don't we? So is he calling because of our liver and kidney conversation earlier, or is Dr. Mad Elf checking in on the Dombrowski thing?
I correctly diagnosed it.
So we'll go to the phones with Greg from Bethlehem. What's up, Greg?
Hey, gentlemen. I use that term loosely as usual. First off, you can live with half a liver.
With half a liver? He's a doctor.
Half a liver.
We found this out. Greg was a doctor.
Dr. Greg?
Now, he's a radiologist, but he should know this. So you could live with half a liver, but not zero liver.
Yeah.
All right.
Correct.
So you want to talk some Phils, Greg?
Yeah. I wonder how constrained is Dombrowski by the overall bankroll. Obviously, he has some leeway, but, I don't know what his guardrails are. It wasn't Hoffman let go for contractual reasons?
Yeah, Hoffman got a big contract from Toronto. They signed him to a 3-year, $33 million deal, so it's an average of about $11 million a year. With incentives, I think it could get up to $39 million. And they replaced him with Jordan Romano, who they gave, I think, $8.5 million to, if I'm not mistaken. So you're right, a little bit of it was financially based, but they gave Max Kepler 10. So it's also about the moves he's making. I get it, but I think it's hard to give Dombrowski a pass because of contractual or financial issues when they have the third or fourth highest payroll in all of baseball. Like, he has the ability to spend some money. Now, you're right. This offseason, maybe he was given a little bit less money to spend, but he's certainly had a lot of money to spend so far during his tenure.
Yeah, the money hasn't necessarily been spent smartly in some cases, so we can certainly criticize him on that basis.
Yes, I appreciate it, Dr. Greg checking in. Now, Greg's all the way out in Bethlehem. I didn't give him an opportunity, I just realized, to win the ticket. Sorry, Greg. But if you still want to win the tickets, the VIP tickets to the event tomorrow night to meet Brandon Graham, I'll be there guest bartending with BG from 6:30 to 8:30. You and a guest can go. You weigh in on one of our topics, I'll hit you with a Brandon Graham trivia. So I understand what Greg's saying about Dombrowski is he doesn't have all the money in the world to spend. But again, when you're up there with the third or fourth highest payroll in baseball, I can't really cry that.
We're not giving you a pass. Now, you can question how he allocates his resources. That's fair. But we're not gonna look at the bankroll and say that's the reason for any perceived shortcomings.
Yeah, and look, Dombrowski, from all accounts, and Bryce Harper kind of confirmed this last week or 2 weeks ago when he was talking about Alec Boehm. Dombrowski did try to trade Alec Boehm. We know that Nick Castellanos is always being rumored to get traded, which would have freed up some maybe money for them to do something else, but for whatever reason, nobody wanted Alec Boehm at the price that the Phillies were offering him.
And they certainly aren't going to want him right now.
No, I mean, look, I still think when we look at the Phils, I still think, and you and I agree on this, like Brandon Marsh, I don't have any hope for anymore. But Alec,
I don't think he's a major league player.
No, I don't think so either. Maybe he's a bench piece. Maybe he's a guy who could come in late.
We'll call him up in September, I guess, for the minors.
But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think he's a major league baseball player. But Alec Boehm is, and I've been very critical of Alec Boehm, and I think everyone has been based off of what he's done at the plate and his attitude. I will say, the guy's worked at his fielding. Like he's doing a lot better at third base in the field, and he's continued to make some good plays there. It's just he's got to get his head right at the plate, and you're going to need to get him going. And when I look at Alec Boehm, I'm not blaming Dombrowski for it. Now it's on Rob Thompson. Like Rob Thompson and Kevin Long, you have to get Alec Boehm going. Like we look at every other sport, and a lot of times we'll go right to the coach, right? Like it's up to you to get the most out of these players.
Sure.
And you've been a big proponent of that with the Eagles.
Player development, yeah.
You said this going into the season, the staff that Vic Fangio built was going to get the most out of the talent that the Eagles had on defense. And they certainly did. I don't think it's just a coincidence that you say that with all these position players they brought in, or position coaches they brought in, and you saw rookies and even second-year guys like Nolan Smith play at an unbelievably high level.
And J-Wix Hunt really sort of come into his own way quicker than anyone could have forecasted. But, yeah, I mean, they can only do so much, though, Bill.
And baseball's a different sport.
Right.
I get it.
They can't go up there and they can't swing the bat. They can't tell him to be more patient or alter his approach. I mean, they could tell him to alter his approach, but it's up to Boehm to be able to do it. Part of me wonders if this is just who he is. Now, he's not a 160 hitter, but, I mean, I don't know if he's ever going to revert back to the player that he was last season. He just seemed, when your psyche is this off kilter, and you require so much maintenance to get you to hone in, I don't know. I have a lot of questions. Yeah, that requires a lot of energy from teammates and coaches to get this guy, programmed right.
I get it, and I've been critical of him. I just think that if this team wants to get over the hump, you're going to need Alec Boehm. You're going to need him. And maybe he's not the cleanup guy. I never liked him in the cleanup spot, but you're going to need him to produce, and I don't see him getting traded this season. Maybe he's not here next year. But if the Phillies want to take advantage of this window that we were talking about leading into this season, hey, the window's closing with this group of core players, you need Alec Boehm to be better than he has. And I think that's more on the coaching staff now to get him going, not on Dombrowski. But we'll continue that conversation with the Phillies. We'll continue our NFL draft conversation. I know a lot of people weighed in on the text board with regard to the NFL players playing in the Olympics, flag football. That's relevant right now because they got to make a decision. So we got all that coming up. I also want to talk to Andrew about something. So I saw this article yesterday. A lot of people always talk about, oh, man, officials, there's no accountability. They make bad calls. There's no accountability. Well, I was reading an article the other day. Made me pretty happy because it sounds like maybe there is accountability. And I'll explain what I mean on the other side.
Fanatic Sports Update.
I'm Austin Jones, and this is your Fanatic Sports Update. The Phillies lost last night to the Atlanta Braves as Marcell Ozuna hit a two-run walk-off home run in the bottom of the 11th inning to win 4-2 after a long rain delay. Today, the Phillies will face the St. Louis Cardinals at 8:15 as Aaron Nola will be on the mound. The 76ers are back in action tonight. They'll face the Atlanta Hawks. Tip-off is for 7 o'clock, and you can listen to that game right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The Flyers are off tonight, but they'll return tomorrow for a day game against the New York Islanders. Puck drop is for 12:30, and you can listen to that game right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The Union will be facing NY City Saturday night at 7:30. You can listen to that game where? On 97.5 The Fanatic. This update's also brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. That feeling of owning your first Mercedes-Benz is hard to believe, but it's real. From the leather stitching to the iconic design, every element of a Mercedes lives up to its reputation. See for yourself at your local dealer. I'm Austin Jones on the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
coming up on the 1 o'clock hour here on Friday. I'm excited for this weekend, man. So tomorrow, I'm taking my son Leo to his first Flyers game ever. I wish it was a meaningful game.
That's going to be awesome, man.
But he won't know the difference. He won't know the difference.
How old is he?
My son's 6.
6. He'll have a phenomenal time.
He's going to love it. And I would tell him this. It's the best live sporting event to go to, hockey. I'm a firm believer.
Without a doubt. Well, he's already telling me that, Dad, I'm not going to watch the game. Can I have your phone? Like, no, you're going to watch the game, dude. You're going to watch the game.
Put your foot down.
But I'm excited
Get a little
because
box of popcorn. He'll enjoy.
Well, that's what he wants. So he wants his, can I get cotton candy? We're going to get there early. We're going to watch Gritty with the boxing gloves.
I was just about to ask you, any chance he's scared of Gritty? Because Gritty can go 50-50 with kids.
Nah, he likes Gritty.
Awesome.
He likes Gritty. And then we'll probably go, I'll get him like a Gritty dollar. So I'm going to try to get him excited. And I just saw yesterday, too, apparently it's like $1 ice cream day tomorrow.
Oh, boy.
So I'll probably get him some ice cream,
Get
too.
him all sugared up. And then
I'm going to bribe him. Like, I'm going to try to get him excited for it by giving him candy and toys.
That's a smart dad.
Maybe that'll work. Maybe that'll work. But
he's going to have a blast.
So let me ask you, Andrew, you're a football guy. Austin, you too. So you've been watching football your whole life. Have you ever watched it and you watch, like, the ref make a terrible call, and then you're like, oh, I hear fans all the time. There's no accountability for referees. They can make these terrible calls, and there's no accountability.
Absolutely.
Like, you've heard it.
Yeah.
So I've felt the same way. I'm reading an article yesterday. It brought a smile to my face. Report. The NFL fires 3 officials and sends them back to the college ranks.
Really?
So apparently, second-year umpire James Carter, third-year line judge Robin DiLorenzo, and first-year down judge Robert Richardson were sent back to the college ranks. Now, it's unknown whether or not they can work their way back up to the NFL, but I love this. To me, this is accountability.
Yeah, like in any job, Bill, if you don't perform, I mean, you can't just keep, showing up to work. You have to be held accountable, and they kicked them down a notch.
I think it's great, man. And, usually I was reading, usually they won't do that where they send you back to, college or whatever. It's just like, you're done. I think this is the nice way to do it. We grade these referees every single year. And, look, if you're not doing a good job, you're going to go back to a lesser league.
That's the way it should be. I mean, you have to be held accountable for it. And I think this will put a lot of others on notice to make sure that they're doing the best job that they can and calling a fair game.
Yeah, so there is accountability with these refs. And look, I think things are getting better and better in terms of the NFL. I'm all for getting the call correct. So now you're going to have that laser technology or whatever it's called that they're implementing for spotting the football.
Yeah.
So that'll
be. It took this long. They were doing it with a note card not long ago.
Yeah, so that'll be good. We know some of the rule changes, and we'll talk about them in a second. But you're listening to WPEN and WPEN HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. Because one of the other rule changes that got voted on and passed was that they expanded the replay assist for penalties. And I've had this conversation before. I never talked to you about it, though, Andrew. What bothered me was it didn't go far enough with this replay assist. So now if a flag is thrown, replay assist can step in to pick up the flag in certain situations, like face masks. They can pick up the flag if it's when there's head contact for a defenseless player, horse collar, tripping, roughing the kicker, these types of things. But I asked this question, I'll ask you, being the football guy that you are, why only in these certain situations, and why only when the flag is thrown? What if there's a blatant face mask, like we saw on Dallas Goedert a couple years ago against the Commanders, which resulted in not only an injury but a fumble? Why can't replay assist step in and be like, no, it's a blatant face mask?
They're only going with what's called on the field, I guess, and they're reassessing it. But if they don't see it, they're turning a blind eye to it. That's my read on that.
Yeah, but you agree with that? Why not just get it right?
Well, yeah, it's all about getting it right. And I'm sure if you ask any official, they're going to tell you, well, we strive to be 100% with all of our calls, but the actions suggest something else. And I think for that, there's a lot of inconsistencies, and you leave a lot of gray area.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of. I think I love the replay assist. I know there are some out there, like the traditionalists, who don't want replay as much. I think more and more people are coming over to this side, just get the call right. But I would use replay for almost everything.
You should, because you got to make sure. I always say trust but verify. That's
I've
a
used
He
that
told me
line.
that yesterday.
that's
trust
a
but verify.
mantra for life.
I've used that line. I think that goes back, though, to who was the first person to use that? Was it Reagan?
I don't know.
I think that's a Reagan
but it
line.
is something that everybody should take with them.
I
and
think
apply it
so,
to
but
their lives.
I say the same thing. Like when I was talking about Howie Roseman, and they didn't re-sign some of these players, and I'm not talking about it was Reagan, so right. I'm not talking about Josh Sweat or Milton Williams. Like they couldn't re-sign these guys. They made too much money on the free agent market. I get it, but I did have some questions with letting Aaron Burks walk, letting Isaiah Rodgers walk.
Those are two big losses.
Right, the big losses that really didn't make that much money elsewhere.
Fred Johnson. These are guys that they were complementary pieces, but when you look at what they're able to do, and now you look at the question marks that they have on the roster right now, they were pretty sizable losses.
Yeah, and that's when I used it with the trust but verify is because there was a lot of people who were just saying, oh, trust Howie. And it's like, yeah, I trust him, but at the same time, trust but verify, like, well, what are they going to do with these positions? Like, it's okay to ask that question. And the same thing with Dombrowski, as we're talking about, like, it's okay to question some of his decisions, but I also think we need to look at some of the positive ones as well. And those kind of been the conversation on the board. And we were talking about the Summer Olympics earlier, and I know the text line's been blowing up on this. And the reason I'm talking about it is apparently there's a tug of war between the NFL players and the league are together on this, wanting to play in the Summer Olympics. The owners don't want the players to play. A decision needs to be made in the next 60 days. What's going on with the text board with this? Do a lot of people agree with us, or they want to see this?
So it's a split. It's mainly people saying no, but we did have one that was for NFL players in the Olympics. He says, or she says, no name. How is this any different than any other sport like basketball and hockey? This is literally touch football. And actually, if they play in the summer, they will come into camp in better shape and not have to ramp up. They would hit the ground running. And honestly, how many people does this actually affect? How many teams? Would the team be smaller than the Olympic basketball team? At the most, 1 or 2 people from each team. I think this broadens the brand, just like all the efforts to play in foreign countries. This will have a greater impact than singular games in foreign countries.
Wow, it's a long text right there. Appreciate the engagement, but I've explained this on why I think it's different than the other sports that allow their players to play in the Olympics. It's not the same sport. And when we talk about flag football, it's not about the contact as much as it's the non-contact injuries. They're the worst ones. The non-contact injuries are always the worst ones. You're talking about ACLs, Achilles tears, things like that could happen.
Tendons. Yeah, I mean, look, when you talk about planting and pivoting and those type of maneuvers, you subject yourself to injury. And when you're not actually playing the sport, you're playing two-hand touch flag football. I just don't know what you're getting out of it other than having the pride and the accomplishment of playing in the Olympics. But you're not really, you're putting a lot more at risk, in my opinion.
Bill, you might like this one because, again, former lawyer. If the owner should be able to take out an insurance policy for the players for a portion of their NFL contract. So if they get hurt, the team is not on the hook for their contract for that year if they were to miss the entire season.
See, that opens up a whole new can of worms.
Well, I would almost guarantee that probably would happen, but it doesn't necessarily help you on the field. Like, it'll help you financially.
Right.
Yeah. Like God forbid, and I'm not going to use an Eagles player because I don't want to jinx us, but like
Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, like Tyreek Hill, and who knows if he's still Tyreek Hill 4 years from now or 3 years from now when the Summer Olympics are here, if he still has that speed. But yeah, like that doesn't help the Miami Dolphins if he tears an ACL. And it's like, well, we got our money back, but now you got to go the whole season without your number one wide receiver.
Yeah, exactly.
So most people, though, are in agreement saying that they don't really care to see the NFL players.
Yeah, the only other option that someone provided was no NFL players. They should use college players, but wouldn't that affect spring football for the universities?
Yeah, it probably would. I think, and I saw this getting floated around by some people saying, like, how about players that are just out of the league?
That's where I was going. Like you retired within 3 years.
Yeah, just let them play.
Like mid-30s, or for whatever reason, they got bounced out of the league. Give them a shot.
But do you remember when this first was teased, Jalen Hurts was in the commercial. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts was in the commercial.
He throws the football.
Yeah, with the Coliseum behind him because the games are in L.A., right?
Yes.
And the quarterback, and I'm forgetting his name now, that's on the U.S. flag football team wasn't happy. Like, you can't do what we do. I think there was an audio clip. I feel like I remember Ray Dunn playing the audio clip where the quarterback for the flag football team was basically saying, like, this is, I'm a better quarterback for flag football than you would be type of thing.
Daryl Doucette.
Yeah, which I am not.
Who?
Exactly. Daryl
Yeah.
Doucette.
Daryl Doucette. All right.
So this is what the NFL is basically saying. Like, you're going to be able to grow the game if you have these big stars going. Because like you just said, who? I mean, you're like the biggest football guy I know. We don't know.
I've never heard
We
of
don't know who
guy.
this guy is, this flag football guy.
Was he a banker? Is
Well,
he a
people who
banker the second time?
people who follow flag football probably know who he is. But yeah, you could, I guess, grow the game if all your big stars are performing on this global scale. And we know what the NFL has been trying to do. There's games now in Brazil. There's games in Germany, Mexico, London. They're going to Australia this year.
Oh gosh.
So I don't know.
Fantasy flag football, is that next? They have a first team, all pro, all flag team.
It's an interesting discussion. We'll keep monitoring it over the next couple of months because I think we'll be getting more and more news when the next owners' meetings kick off. But look, coming up next, I want to jump back. I know Andrew's a football guy, and we're only less than 2 weeks away from the NFL draft, but we're going to jump back to the Fightin' Phils because the Phillies start another series tonight. Even though they feels like the game just ended from last night, they will be back on the diamond tonight in St. Louis. So we're going to take a look at who's on the mound for both the Phillies and the Cardinals, and we'll get back to our Dave Dombrowski discussion coming up right after this.
The Philadelphia 76ers.
Phils back at it tonight. A new series taking on the St. Louis Cardinals in St. Louis. A little bit later of a start with it being in St. Louis. 8:15 tonight, which is probably a good thing for anybody who stayed up last night. Gives you a little bit more time. But for the players, man, see, tonight's going to be a tough one for the players because by the time they got to St. Louis, it had to be. I mean, what time did the game get over last night? Like 1 o'clock in the morning?
Like 1:30?
So 1:30. By the time they get out of there, they jump on a flight. They get to St. Louis. I mean, I don't know, man. Look, baseball is a little bit different of a sport. Like, you could wake up and probably be tired. Like, if that was a football game, I would be take the other team. The other team.
I don't think that would work for football.
But interesting matchup. So you got Aaron Nola on the mound tonight for the Fightin' Phils. And, man, I threw out the question to start the show. Are we being a little bit too negative towards Dave Dombrowski? I mean, I don't even want to ask the question. We are being too negative as it relates to Aaron Nola. To me, it's been so overblown. In his last start, the guy gives up 3 earned runs, and there's people saying they're never going to watch an Aaron Nola start again. 3 earned. Sanchez gives up 3 earned the next day. You didn't hear a peep.
Yeah, I feel like some folks have predetermined expectations or they have an opinion of Aaron Nola, and they're not able to shake that no matter what he does. And it's kind of criminal because you look at his body of work for as long as he's been pitching, Bill, I think that you should give him the benefit of the doubt. You don't want to overreact to one start, and you often hear about, he's always going to give up the home run. Yeah, but it's usually solo shots, right? I mean, I just think that he's done a lot more good in his career that it should quell some concerns that a lot of folks may have.
Dude, the guy has been so reliable. And you're right, he gives up home runs. I get it, and it's frustrating, and it's demoralizing sometimes when he gives up that home run. But you just look at his numbers over the last few years, he always takes the mound. Knock on wood, he's always healthy. He gives you a chance to win in almost all of his starts. I know he has those bad starts every once in a while, but we are too focused on some of the negative. And look, when you look at what he's making, he gets paid like he's an ace, and I think that's what frustrates people sometimes.
But it's not their money, though.
There's no salary cap in baseball. Although that's being floated. I was reading something yesterday. MLB may consider a salary cap again. Highly doubt it'll happen when this current CBA is over. But you don't have to worry about that. Like Aaron Nola, you may not even need him to be your 3, let alone your 2. Like we were talking about how good this starting rotation is. When you have Wheeler and you have Sanchez and you have Luzardo pitching the way he's pitching, Nola could be your 4th best pitcher, and you're still in a damn good spot.
A very good spot. That's a luxury most teams would, they would be starving for.
They would be. And that's why we were talking about Dombrowski. Is it fair that we're being so over-the-top negative when you look at this starting rotation? So we're going to go to the phones because somebody wants to weigh in on the Dombrowski conversation. I'm sorry, what was his name? Who's on?
This is James from Levittown.
James from Levittown. What's up, man? You're on the Fanatic.
Hey, guys. How we doing?
Hey, James. What's up, man?
It's Friday, my brother.
All right. So, happy Friday, man. I'm getting a little bit of deja vu from the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles season, where, by week, we were 2-2. Defense was great, where, defense was like Swiss speed, all this kind of stuff.
Oh man, you're breaking up on us, man. You're breaking up. We're gonna get you on hold and see if we can get a better connection. But I understand this point, and I touched on this a little bit yesterday when you talk about the Fightin' Phils and the start that they've had, and you look back at the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles, that they were 1 drop pass away from being 3-1 at the bye week. Yet there was total panic in the city with regard to either the head coach, the defense, the offense, Jalen Hurts. There was an all-out panic, and then they come out of the bye and they go 16-1 with the only game they lose when Jalen Hurts gets hurt. And that's why yesterday Ray and I were talking, do we tend to overreact to kind of early season takeaways? And is that what's happening here with the Phillies? Are we overreacting, or are we just identifying some weaknesses that were there last year that are still there this year?
Well, you and I were big proponents of exercising patience with the Eagles for a lot of reasons that we outlined. So you and I expected this, the Eagles' slower start. And there was potential there for them to grow and move past that. Someone like a Brandon Marsh, however, I don't know if he's going to come through. You and I just said that we don't believe that he's a major league player, And Alec Boehm is showing signs of the player that he was to finish last season. So you don't know if he's able to shake that either. Whereas with the Eagles, you had the sense that if they're able to power through it and get through the bye week, and you had players like Cooper DeJean that you could plug in, that they can kind of move past it. With the Phillies, for a couple spots, even a couple bullpen spots, I mean, barring a trade or a player just having some miraculous resurgence, it's kind of hard to see them working through it.
We're going to try to get James back. Maybe he's got a better connection. So, James, sorry, man, you got a better connection now?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, now I got you. So I think the point you were trying to make was it's very similar to what we just saw with the Eagles.
Yeah, I think it's almost in Philadelphia fan DNA to kind of overreact to this kind of stuff. Exactly your point today. I think it's a little too soon to overreact. I mean, Romano, however you say his name, he had a pretty good outing last night, and we were freaking out about him after his first two outings. And I think we just had to give it a little more time. I want to point to something that we were all very critical and very worried about going into the season. That's Trey Turner. I'm very happy with what I've seen from Trey Turner so far, and I think we need to praise as loud as we criticized him, heading into the season. And I haven't heard enough of that. I mean, you point on it from time to time, and I listen to other radio stations, and they point on it from time to time. But again, we're talking about Boehm, and sure, like Boehm and Marsh, they've been absolutely brutal. But I think we got to point to Trey Turner and the fact that this offense, their approach at the plate has been, at least to me, very impressive, and I'm very happy with what I've seen. And man, my point is I think it's just a little too soon. I think if we get into like mid-May, maybe early June, and we're still having the same concerns, then we can start slamming the panic button. But I think we gotta give it a little more time for this team to just get it going here. And it's an 8-4 start. That's still a pretty good start for a team like this. And
you make a lot of good points, man.
That's it, yeah.
You make a lot of good points, James. I mean, the only thing I disagree with is that you listen to other radio stations too. But come on, man, you can't have the perfect call. But do you want a shot to win the tickets for the VIP meet and greet with me and Brandon Graham tomorrow night at Ladder 15?
Yeah, absolutely. Go away.
Now, this is coming from my producer, Austin. This was his trivia question that he thought would be fairly easy for people. So what number did Brandon Graham wear his rookie season with the Eagles?
54.
Austin?
There it is.
Hit the ding, ding, ding. All right, James, hang on the line, man. I will see you tomorrow at the VIP meet and greet at Ladder 15 with Crooked Tea, celebrity bartending event. Should be a great night, even though you're out there and you didn't win the tickets necessarily. Make sure you come to see us. It's going to be an awesome night. I would get there early because I think it's going to be pretty crowded. It's going to be a fun night. Brandon Graham, me, everybody from Crooked Tea over at Ladder 15. So James made some interesting points. I think James is still on. There you go. You got him. James made some interesting points about Trey Turner. So coming up, I do want to take a look at Trey Turner to start this season because this is kind of what the theme of the show has been, is we're so focused on the negative with the Philadelphia Phillies, and I'm guilty of it too. Trust me, I did it yesterday, and I've been doing it in my head, and I'm trying to go into this weekend a little bit more positive. Trey Turner has been a big positive to start this season along with some other players. So we'll take a look at that. We'll look at what we think the lineup may be tonight against a right-hander on the mound for the Cardinals. Keep it here as we bring it down the home stretch on this Friday afternoon.
Fanatic Sports Update.
I'm Austin Jones, and this is your Fanatic Sports Update. This update is brought to you by Family Jewelers, Veragio Bridal Shower, April 17th through 19th. Save hundreds, maybe even thousands on the ring of her dreams. Family and Company Jewelers, South Jersey's diamond destination. The Phillies lost last night to the Atlanta Braves in the bottom of the 11th inning due to a Marcell Ozuna 2-run shot that put them up 4-2 after a long rain delay. The Phillies face the St. Louis Cardinals tonight at 8:15, and Aaron Nola will be on the mound. The 76ers are back in action tonight versus the Hawks. Tip-off is for 7 p.m., and you can listen to that game right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The Flyers are off tonight, but will return tomorrow for a day game against the New York Islanders. Puck drop is for 12:30, and you can listen to that game right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. And the Union will be back Saturday as well to face NY City at 7:30. You can listen to the game here on 97.5 The Fanatic. This update's also brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. The feeling of owning your first Mercedes-Benz is hard to believe, but it's real. From the leather stitching to the iconic design, every element of a Mercedes lives up to its reputation. See for yourself at your local dealer. I'm Austin Jones on the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
We want to hear from On Friday on 97.5 The Fanatic. Hopefully everybody's staying dry out there. We don't have windows in here, so I can't see. Is it still raining out there?
I have to imagine that it is. I'm not near a window, but
Well, April showers,
I think it's
man.
supposed to rain all day.
April showers. Well, hopefully it's not raining in St. Louis where the Phillies are tonight. Is that outside? St. Louis, that's an outdoor stadium.
They're outdoor.
Yeah, they're outdoor. That's not a dome.
Busch Stadium, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. So tonight, Phillies are back at it, hoping to bounce back after the extra inning loss and their first series loss of the season to the Atlanta Braves. On the mound for the St. Louis Cardinals, Andre Pelante, right-hander, 26 years old. So far this season, 2 starts, 3.86 ERA, giving up 8 hits in 9 innings. He's given up 2 long balls. So we'll see how that works out. But with a right-hander on the mound tonight, you'll probably get the left-handed lineup again. Schwarber leading off. You'll have Turner hitting second, Bryce Harper third. Now I'm curious what they do in the cleanup spot.
They should keep Casty there.
I would.
One game. I
Yeah.
mean, and that was bad. 5 strikeouts. But they should keep him there and let him work through that and see if he can work through that.
Yeah, so we'll probably be getting that lineup a little bit later. They'll have it for you on the afternoon show with. Whoa! Have it on the afternoon show.
Still going on. My bad.
The afternoon show with Ty and Ricky and Silvana. But yeah, I'm with you, Andrew. I would keep Castellanos in the cleanup spot for now, and then you would follow him up with Kepler hitting 5th. Now they had JT in the 6th hole yesterday with Bohm at 7. I'm guessing JT's back on the mound, back behind the plate tonight, even though it was kind of a late night. I mean, we'll see how they did. I think
that's how I was kind of wondering if they would go Marchand.
Because Marchand caught Nola, I think, in his last outing, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he? I can't remember now. It's all running together.
Sunday, right?
It's all running together, man.
Yeah, I could peep.
It's all running together. Well, either way, I'm hoping they keep Bohm at the 7th spot. I'm hoping they keep Bohm at the 7th spot. Now, here's the question for you, though. Stott's still in the lineup 8th. Do you trust Brandon Marsh again?
No, I would put Rojas in there.
Even against a right-hander?
I would because he's going to give you the same, and he's going to give you better defense.
I think I may be with you. I'm not a huge Rojas guy.
I am. That kind of maybe skews where I would go with that, but I think obviously barring something, an egregious error again, I mean, he gives you a lot more security there as a fielder, and he gives you about what you're going to get from Marsh at the plate, which has been zilch recently.
Yeah, when you say an egregious error.
Well,
yes, not technically an error.
It wasn't technically, yes.
But
it wasn't ruled an error, but it did drop 2 feet in front of him.
They should change that rule, dude. There's no way that should not have been an error, and Zach Wheeler gets earned runs in that situation.
Yeah, I'm still upset and really perplexed as to why that wasn't officially ruled an error. But yes, we're going to call it an error.
Now, we've been doing this show, you and I, for 3.5 hours. You haven't hit me with a behoove yet. Do you know that?
I was saving it.
Yeah, that's his word, behoove. I always listen for it. It's
that's the buzzword.
Yeah, it's a great word.
It's underutilized.
I've never used it in conversation, and I hear you use it, and it just sounds so good all the time. It would behoove them to keep Marsh on the bench.
Yeah,
tonight.
I've actually heard somebody recently use it in an interview, and I was like, nice. Nice.
Very good word. All right, so if you were making the lineup tonight, you're going with Rojas. I guess you would put him in the 9 hole tonight.
Definitely.
So we'll see if Brandon Marsh is back in the lineup. I'm giving up on Marsh, man. I would put him on the bench. Now, I would not. I know there are people out there who would say, sit down Alec Bohm. I don't think you sit him down. I think you just keep him in the bottom of the lineup, keep him in that 7 spot. I'd be okay even if he was in the 6 spot, but just keep him out of the cleanup. He's got to get it going, though.
But the argument against that, Bill, would be to sit him down and maybe let him gather himself and get his wits about him. Just get his psyche right, because he's he's a mess right now.
Yeah, he is a mess right now.
But he requires a lot of maintenance, man.
Yeah, he is a mess right now. But look, we are trying to go into the weekend with a little bit more positivity, and that's why I said, are we being a little too over the top negative when it comes to Dombrowski? Is it fair, all the criticism we're throwing his way? I think it's okay to question some of the decisions, but we're going to try to look at some of the positives before we hit the weekend. And the caller we had earlier was talking about Trey Turner, and he's not wrong, man. Trey Turner to start the year has looked like the guy you thought you were getting when you gave him the big contract after coming out of L.A. Like when he was with the Dodgers, his OBP his last year with the Dodgers was 343, and the year before that, half the year with Washington, his OBP was 375. So far this season, he's at 372. Going into last night, I think he was at like 385 or 390. He's getting on base. His approach at the plate is better. And he's been more active on the base pass with the 4 stolen bases. He's been fine in the field. We haven't seen the butcher, like John Kincade likes to call him, which he's not wrong. He hasn't been great in the field since he's been here. But, like, that is a massive positive right now when you look at the first 12 games of the season. Like, if we're going to overreact to the negative, let's overreact to the positive. Trey Turner looks pretty damn good.
He does. And you know what? I do believe a lot of it has to do with when you start to compile positive plays and positive games, that sort of instills confidence in you. And he's able to kind of go out there and not have that weighing on him. He just goes out there and plays baseball.
Yeah, he just goes out and plays baseball. Let's hope that continues. Another positive, too, and I mentioned this a little earlier, is Bryson Stott. Like, we're all so focused on what Marsh and Bohm haven't been doing.
Stott's been having a really nice bounce back.
Really good. Now, look, I still want to see him do it against left-handed pitching. You know, like a lot of his success has come against right-handers so far this season. But, you know, he's hitting 282. His OBP is at 364, 5 RBIs. Like, he's looked really good as well. And, you know, you got Bryson Stott hitting 8th in this lineup pretty consistently. If he keeps this up, I wouldn't mind moving him up in the lineup.
To 6?
Maybe you do. You know, maybe you do because, look, Real Muto, as much as you love him behind the plate, he hasn't been setting the world on fire as a hitter. Although I think he did have a pretty decent night last night from the plate. Am I wrong on that? Like I said, it's all running together, man. There's too many damn games. Hold on, let me pull up last night because I thought JT had a couple hits last night. Didn't he get on base a couple times last night? Yeah, 2 for 4 last night with a walk. So he got on base 3 times. See, I was right. And he stole his 100th base, too, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
For a catcher. But, you know, as we're talking about some positives here, Bryson Stott being one of them, Trey Turner being another one. Let's talk about Kyle Schwarber, dude. Because
Absolutely.
This guy is literally doing things right now that would put him in the MVP conversation. He hits his 6th home run last night. That thing was another monster. Exit velocity, 108.6. How impressed have you been with the start that Kyle Schwarber's had?
Oh, it's been phenomenal. He's been one of the best players in Major League Baseball, and I think that the Phillies have to commit to him long term. I think they should make it so that he doesn't wear another uniform ever. I would extend him right now. The way that he's playing, you want to reward that kind of. I think you want to reward that kind of production.
Oh, boy.
And I kind of have an idea of where you're lying on this.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. So as much as I love Schwarber, man, and he's off to an unbelievable start. I said
tremendous.
I wouldn't extend him. I wouldn't do it right now. I would take in Howie we trust, I would take the Howie Roseman approach, and the Eagles made a change. They used to extend guys during the season. They don't do it anymore. They don't extend players during the season.
Are you worried he's going to lose his fire, his hunger? Like, what's your major concern there?
A couple of things. One, as much as Kyle Schwarber is always motivated, I do think subconsciously there is something that happens to an athlete when they know they're in a contract year. Now, it can go 2 ways, right? It can go the other way where it becomes so much that you start to press. I love that Schwarber seems to be motivated and locked in, and I wouldn't change it by giving them the extension. Just keep them hungry. I also don't like what it does to the other players in the clubhouse. Like JT Realmuto needs a new deal. So if you extend Schwarber and you don't extend JT, what does that do to him? I also don't love
teams do that all the time, though. You can't really think like that. You have to think for the betterment of the team.
They do, but look at the Eagles.
But in the past, they used to routinely would do that.
And they changed because of it. And one of the reasons was because of what happens to the other guys. Like last season, and I said this to Ray the other day, they could have absolutely extended Zach Bond midseason. Like they knew they were going to try to keep him, and they probably would have paid him less if they extended him in the middle of the season. But they don't do it anymore. They wait, because if you gave Zach Bond his money, well, then what about some of these other guys who are on 1-year deals? If you would have extended any of these players, like even going back 2 years ago, they didn't extend some of the guys midseason, and then they wait till the end of the season. I just think that you don't mess with it. I like keeping the guys hungry. I would wait until after the season, and there's a third reason for it. Not only what it does to Schwarber, not only what it does to the other guys in the clubhouse, as much as I love Schwarber, I kind of want the flexibility. And Ray and I went back and forth on this. Yeah, you're probably going to keep Schwarber no matter what. But if they come up short again, if this is a disappointing season again, I don't want to see them run it back next year. And I know they'll have some flexibility with Castellanos being in the final year of his deal, and and JT Realmuto may or may not be back because he's in the final year of his deal now. But I don't know if I want to give Schwarber his money now, and that kind of handcuffs you a little bit come the offseason.
But I think you could still extend him without having to totally run it back. And he's a player that should be a part of this team moving forward regardless because he continuously delivers. So there's arguments to both sides, but I just think that the Phillies at this point owe it to Schwarber to commit to him long term. And sometimes when you know that the franchise is committed to you and they believe in you, you're able to play more freely. And it's kind of hard to believe because he's playing pretty damn good right now.
Yeah, he is. So we'll continue that. You could weigh in on the Kyle Schwarber contract extension on our text board, 610-632-0975. When we get back, we'll take a look at all the topics that were on the table today. We'll check the text board, and we'll lead you into the best show ever at 2 o'clock. Keep it right here.
We want to hear from you, so text us at 610-
On this Friday afternoon. We survived without Mikey Miss the last 3 days. He's down at Augusta. He will be back on Monday. Ray Dunn will be back on Monday. But we had a fun show today. Andrew DeCecco joined me for all 4 hours. We had Austin Jones behind the glass. And if you missed Ray Dunn, tune into the Sixers game tonight because you may see him sitting courtside right on the floor. Ray Dunn moving up in the world, man. But you look at Augusta where Mikey Miss is right now. I'm looking at some of the leaderboard. So Justin Rose still 8 under in the lead. But Bryson DeChambeau right behind him at 7 under. But it's a long tournament. I'm looking forward to watching some of this.
How's me and Tunis's guy, Cowan? You're going to have to help give me that name again?
Morikawa.
Morikawa, yeah.
Let me see where he's at right now. So we got, did he make any moves today? Ooh, I don't know. I'm going.
You're scrolling down. That's never good.
No, it's not. Oh, where the heck it? I don't know, dude.
What, is he injured? What happened here?
No, he is. He's still even on the day. So
That's just like me and Tunis drew it up.
Yeah, he's even. He's through 2 holes so far today, so nothing bad. What's Rory doing? I saw people coming at me because I said I thought Rory was gonna win today, or I said he was gonna win the tournament. What's he doing today? I'm not seeing Rory either. Oh, here he is. Yeah, he's making his move today, baby. So Rory, 3 under today, moves into the top 10. So I'm telling you, man, watch out. This may be McIlroy's year. But we're not talking Masters. I know a lot of people don't care about golf. It's amazing. Like, I didn't give a crap about golf for years. Didn't watch it, didn't play it, and then all of a sudden I picked it up, and now you get the bug. It's like a drug. You just get addicted to it, man.
That's a sport that I really need to set aside some time and know that I need some patience to be good at it.
Dude, you need a lot of time.
But I love the driving range.
You need a lot of time, and if
I do frequent the driving range quite a bit.
So yeah, it's just you need a lot of time with the short game and all that, but we're not doing golf talk. We had a lot of topics on the table today, so I do want to get to our text board because we've had a lot on the table. We were talking about the criticism of Dave Dombrowski. I'm seeing it all over social media. I heard it on the morning show this morning. And is it fair? And I say that, I'm asking myself, too, because I've been very critical of Dave Dombrowski, really dating back to last year's trade deadline. And now this season starts, and I'm looking at all the negatives, the bullpen. I'm looking at what they did in the outfield. And I don't think I'm spending enough time talking about the positives. And the big one was Jesus Luzardo, who looks like an absolute stud. We did a lot of NFL draft talk with Andrew DeCecco. If you missed his draft special that was aired live last night, you could still get it on YouTube. So his NFL draft special is still on YouTube. It was a great 2 hours of content. And if you want more Andrew DeCecco, early birds tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Can't wait.
Every Saturday morning, our own Andrew DeCecco does a great job covering the Eagles. But I want to go to the text board. We had a lot of topics. What do we got?
So this is Reese from Dallas. He says, it's safe to say that Howie's been more successful in the second round. So being that the pick is pretty much a second round pick, I actually have more faith that he won't overthink it. And I also have a sleeper pick here, Holland Pierce from Rutgers. What do you say?
Oh, look, you're speaking to me here, but Holland Pierce is a day 3 player, most likely, maybe a 4th or a 5th rounder. But yeah, I mean, I was at his pro day. I had a chance to talk to him a little bit. He is a massive human being. He's an offensive tackle for those who don't know.
Okay, offensive tackle, you got him more as a day 3, you said, not day 2. Now, remember, too, I always forget this. Like, NFL now does round 1 on Thursday, right?
Then it's 2 and 3.
2 and 3 on Friday, and then round 4 on Saturday and through the rest.
Day 2 and 3, it's like Christmas back-to-back for me, man.
Oh, man, you're such a freak. In a good way.
I love it. I take notes. I observe.
So tonight, your Friday night, a lot of film tonight? Watching,
no, you know what, man?
I
think tonight I'm just going to relax. I'm going to get ready for my show tomorrow. I'm going to watch a movie. I'm a big movie guy, so I'll try it. That's how I unwind.
I'm a big movie guy, too. But let me say, that texter said something interesting. He said that Howie Roseman's had maybe more success in the second round than he even did in the first round. And the crazy thing is I saw a stat. I think this was from Reuben Frank that put this out, right?
It was.
That they had 4 straight years where the second round pick made a Pro Bowl, right? It was, you had Miles Sanders in 2019, Jalen Hurts in 2020, Landon Dickerson in 2021, Cam Jurgens in 2022, and the only reason why they didn't have a fifth straight year in 2023 was because they didn't have a second-round pick. And then they followed up with Cooper DeJean last year, who I think anybody doubting he's going to make a Pro Bowl?
Right. So you're contradicting yourself here a little bit, because earlier in the show you voiced some concern about having a second-round player be able to be a contributor, an immediate contributor for the Eagles.
Correct. Because I just think what we just went through, the stat that Reuben Frank put out, no other team, not even GM, no other team in NFL history has ever drafted 4 straight Pro Bowlers in the second round. Ever. Howie Roseman did it, and that's why my question about the draft was, do we really expect him to do it again? Like, it's never been done 4 straight years, and now we're like, yeah, don't worry. Howie will be just fine again.
I think he's going to do it, man, because there's no evidence to suggest against it. You're just going with the law of averages. That's your reasoning.
That's exactly what I'm doing, is I'm looking at the law of averages. It's just like almost impossible. But, hey, look, Howie Roseman has been doing things no one else has done. So who am I to doubt the guy? But I said I would give him a lifetime contract. I stand by that. As much as I love Nick Sirianni, and I was a proponent of his all last season, I would never give a coach a lifetime contract. And that was a question that came up yesterday. Let me get your opinion on that.
Yeah.
So Ray and I were throwing around, when the extension gets announced, how many years you think it will be for Nick, and how much should they pay him, knowing that Andy Reid makes $20 million a year. I think, who's making 17? Sean Payton's making like 17 or 18. Tomlin is making about 16 million. Jim Harbaugh, I think, is making 17 million. So, like, if you were to extend Sirianni, which I think everybody knows it's coming, what would you give him?
3 years, 19 mil.
So you'd only do 3, but you would make him the second highest coach in the NFL.
I absolutely would. I mean, Andy Reid, he's been a pillar of success, and I think that it's kind of hard to leapfrog him, but I do believe that Nick Sirianni deserves the respect. And for him to be as successful as he has, Bill, in just a small sample size, I think that is that's a sign, it's a precursor for what's to come for this team. And I think that they're going to commit to him long term, and that's kind of where I would have that priced out.
Why only 3 years then?
I mean, what were you thinking? 5, 8?
I was thinking 4-year extension, which would mean another 5.
Okay,
because his original contract, when he had no experience at all, was a 5-year deal.
That's true,
right? So, but now Adam Schefter, who joins the morning show every Wednesday, they asked him 2 weeks ago, "What do you think the extension looks like?" And he said a 3-year extension. He said the same thing that you said. So that would mean 4 more years. I don't know.
Some people, you also have to look at it as aside from like Mike Tomlin, Andy Reid, sometimes coaches they need a change of scenery. So you don't want to overcommit. Things change, and they're, sometimes you get stagnant, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
It does happen with coaches. That's why I said I would never do a lifetime contract for a coach, but I would do it for a GM.
For a GM, definitely, because especially for Howie Roseman, because he's always ahead of the trends. He's always ahead of the game, and he's constantly being progressive in his thought process, and he leaves no stone unturned. That's not going to change.
All right, one more text, Dawson. What do we got? Give us something on the Phils.
Alrighty, so the reason, where was it? Yes. Hold on. I just had it because I wanted to use this one very specifically. Here we go. All right. This is Herbert from Drexel Hill. You could do much worse than an 8-4 start to the season, people. You need to just relax, in the words of Aaron Rodgers. I don't like that he ties in Aaron Rodgers to the Phillies, but I see where he's coming from.
And listen, I said I'm trying to be more positive towards the Phillies today than negative, but I also don't necessarily love that. Like, relax, it's only been 12 games. It's when you saw the way the season ended last year and you watch this team over the first 12 games, it's easy to see that a lot of the same issues are still there.
Bingo.
Yeah, right. And that's why some of the fans are reacting the way they're reacting. And I don't think you should be over the top negative, but I also never like the put your head in the sand and just be a fan. Just enjoy it. Well, we want to enjoy it, but part of enjoying it is discussing some of the weaknesses,
too. I think
you
could do both things, especially there are fans have every right to be concerned here, Bill. Obviously, a lot of the same issues that plagued the team at the latter stages of last season into the postseason are rearing their heads right now. And nothing's really changed as it pertains to certain bullpen aspects. Bohm, Marsh, Stott's turned the corner.
Yeah, Stott's been good, and Trey Turner's been good, but you're right. The outfield, the bullpen, there'll still be questions. Well, we'll see, because this is the best part about baseball. They're back at it tonight. They're in St. Louis, 8:15 first pitch. We're still waiting on what the lineup's going to look like, but the Phillies are favored tonight. They're a minus 118. Cardinals are a plus 100. Let me get a prediction from you before we get out of here, Andrew. Who's hitting a home run for the Phils tonight?
I will say Kyle Schwarber.
Really going out on a limb with that? It's hard to bet against it, man. How do you bet against it?
No. I'm going to go Casty. I'm gonna go a little bit on a limb here.
So I went Casty yesterday, and he let me down. But so Casty tonight is a plus 800 on FanDuel to hit a home run. I like that, though. I'm going to keep riding the Castellanos home run train until it happens. I'm with you. I'm going Nick Castellanos. Austin, you got a home run tonight?
Yeah, let's go JT if he's playing. If he's not, then let's go Stott.
Wow, Bryson Stott. Yeah, he's a plus 1,400 to hit a home run, Bryson Stott.
Yeah, but he's been making some solid contact. I think he can run into one.
Let me tell you how crazy this is. Bryson Stott's a plus 1,400. Alec Boehm's only a plus 1,100 at a home run.
I'd rather have Stott.
Maybe Boehm has it tonight.
No, I think we got Castellanos. That's where we're going. Me and Bill. There you heard it. You heard it.
You heard it here with Nick Castellanos. I just want to remind everybody, tomorrow night, there's a great event going on at Ladder 15. I will be there guest bartending with the one and only two-time Super Bowl champ, Brandon Graham, at the Crooked T Celebrity Bartending event. Ladder 15 on Sansom Street, 6:30 to 8:30. It's going to be a great, great night. Come by, say hello, get to meet Brandon Graham. It will be awesome. But make sure you start your day tomorrow with Andrew DeCecco right here on 97.5 The Fanatic at 9 a.m. I want to give a big thank you to Andrew, big thank you to Austin. Everybody have a great weekend. Best show ever coming up next.
Game against the New York Islanders. Puck drop is for 12:30. You can listen to that game here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The Union are also playing Saturday night against New York City at 7:30, and you can listen to that game